Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order the March 26, 2019 meeting of the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board. Can we please begin with a roll call?
Amanda Skyer.
Here.
Theodora Aspergren.
Here.
Kristen Kellogg.
Here.
Dan Pickney.
Here.
Takara Chambers.
Here.
Gabriel Jaroslavsky.
Here.
Ken Breslauer. Let the record reflect that Ken Breslauer is not present. Reginald Stanbaugh. Let the record reflect that Reginald Stanbaugh is not present. Nick Casali.
Here.
Okay, we now move on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda as presented? Okay, any by staff? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the agenda for March 26, 2019.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to approval of the minutes from the February 26th meeting. Do we have any changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes for the February 26th meeting, 2019.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the report of the Historic Preservation Planner.
Good evening, Frederique Metner, City Historic Preservation Planner. I just wanted to share with the board that staff has reviewed 82 applications at the level 1 permit level, 1 level 2, and 21 zoning reviews. And other than that, there are no updates.
Okay, thank you. We now move on to remarks by the chairperson. The matters before us this evening are quasi-judicial in nature, which means we make our decisions based on competent, substantial evidence that comes before us. We ask you to please keep this in mind when making your comments. How this will work is for each case, staff will make a presentation, and then the applicant will be able to make a presentation as well. 10 minutes is the standard, and there will be 15 minutes for the applicant if there is a demolition. After the applicant speaks, we will open it up to public comment. And if you plan to speak this evening, hopefully you saw the cards in the foyer there and grabbed one to fill out. We will need one of those cards if you're here to speak on a case that's not your own. And those public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. And afterwards, the applicant may have a short rebuttal if they choose to do so. To lead into this, we need to let you know if we'd have had any conversations outside of this meeting. So we'll move on to a declaration of ex parte communications.
Takara Chambers, no ex parte communication.
Gabe Jaroslavsky, no ex parte communication.
Theodora Aspergren, I have spoken with Ms. Mittner about the applications this evening, but can make my decision based upon the evidence presented tonight.
Amanda Skyer, I also have spoken with Ms. Mittner about the cases on tonight's agenda, but I can make my decisions based on the evidence presented.
Kristen Kellogg, no ex parte communication.
Dan Pickney, no ex parte communications.
Nick Casali, communications.
Okay, so we will now open up the meeting to public comment. So if you are here to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, now is the time to do so. So an item that is not on the agenda this evening. Okay, seeing no participants, we will move on to the swearing in of our speakers. If you have a case before us or plan to speak on a case that is on tonight's agenda, please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. So we have one item on the consent agenda this evening, and that is case number 1909-726 Sunset Road. Can we have a motion to approve?
I have one comment about that, the consent case, and is that the presented NOA for the metal roof is expired.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem in make a motion to approve it, but with that comment.
Okay. Would you like to go ahead and make the motion?
Sure. So I move the board to approve case 1909 on 76 Sunset Road with a comment that the NOA presented is expired and a new NOA will have to be presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for noticing that. Very diligent. Moving on, we have one continued case from the last meeting, and that's case number 1907, 284 Cordova Road.
Good evening, Board. Aaron Borngerber, Historic Preservation Planner. This is Historic Preservation case number 1907 for 284 Cordova Road. This was continued from last month's meeting. This is the project location highlighted in red. And the request tonight is by Leonard Woods Architect for an ad valorem pre-construction for additions and alterations to the contributing Mediterranean Revival house built in 1924, demolition of an existing non-contributing accessory structure built in 1924 with a 1957 addition, and then new construction of an accessory structure with a 2-car garage and a second-story bedroom within the Elside Historic District. This is the existing elevation of the north elevation from across the street as well as right at the fence. This is the north elevation right here, and this is a 1982 addition. And right here we have the accessory structure which is proposed to be demolished. This is a southwest elevation, and we have the corbelling overhang that staff believes was added in 1930. And on the northeast elevation, we have most of the yard, but also that panhandle addition from 82 shows a blank wall. The image on the left is the 1926 Sanborn map shortly after the home was constructed. The 1967 property record card in the middle shows what staff believes is the 1930 addition in yellow, and then the Florida Department of Transportation 1986 aerial shows the Panhandle addition from 1982. A little bit of neighborhood context. So 284 Cordova has a property frontage of 150 feet, but the building currently is only 57 feet. The applicant is proposing to increase that by 9 feet. Most of the properties on this block have a building frontage that exceeds 50% of the lot frontage. This is an example on the same block of 255 Cordova, which kind of illustrates the layering effect that the applicant is proposing. So this would be the 2011 aerial that shows the large addition that was added in sometime between 2011 and 2014, which you can see here from Google Earth. This is the proposed site plan, and this is the existing floor plan, and this is the revised floor plans. The things that have changed is the parapet wall on the front elevation has been pushed back to create that layering effect, and the spiral staircase has been removed for a more traditional staircase. This is the north elevation. As I mentioned, the applicant has pushed back the parapet wall for the terrace to create that layering effect. There was concerns over these 3 windows. These 2 windows, which are part of the original construction of the house, are being modified, but to differentiate the change, is a 6-inch setback to help create a little break there, as well as a different window configuration. This is the east elevation. The major difference here is the addition of the roof tile parapet. There was just some coping there. Now the entire parapet has the roof tiles, as well as the traditional staircase with a door. The applicant has added the corbelling overhang that was originally added in about 1930 and expanded upon it. And on this elevation, we have the corbelling overhang once again recreated and expanded, and then where the trio French doors are, the overhang has been recreated and enlarged to help lower the effects of the changes that were proposed. This is a proposed site plan again. These will be for the accessory structure, existing and proposed. The left and the right image show the accessory structure as it currently exists. This is the proposed first floor plan and the second floor plan. These are the proposed elevations. These are the same as last time. It is very Mediterranean Revival. Essentially, it's a smaller version of the house that is proposed to be additions for. The review criteria for additions and alterations, it now fully complies with the Historic Preservation Ordinance as well as the Secretary Interior Standards number 9 and 10. The new additions are different, and they're respectful of the contributing house as originally was built, as well as a historic addition. And the setback on the front of 6 inches helped make that clear where that addition was, as well as the parapet wall for the terracing being pushed back increases that layering effect. This is review criteria for demolition. These are 7 standards that the board may base a denial of a demolition application, and staff finds that none of these 7 are applicable for a non-contributing accessory structure. This is new construction criteria for meets the historic preservation ordinance, as well as the Secretary of Interior standards number 9 and 10. This accessory structure is in the corner of the property. It's very Mediterranean revival, and essentially is a smaller version of the house that's being added onto. Staff is going to recommend the approval of the ad valorem pre-construction with the one condition that the height of the proposed accessory structure shall decrease by 1.5 feet, or the side yard setback of 5 feet shall be increased by 1.5 feet, or any combination thereof to ensure compliance with the wall height at side setback requirement of the zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Questions of staff?
I'm just a little confused, just looking at the report here. Are you now saying as a result of the changes that were made since last week, the additions and alterations do comply with standards 9 and 10?
Yes, they do, now that the additions have been modified and now do.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Can you please clarify on the north elevation where the 1980s addition begins in relationship to the entry?
Sure. So the 1982 addition is starting right here, where these 2 windows with the Juliet balcony are. And their line is roughly there, about a foot or so left of the 2 arch windows.
Okay, so the windows directly to the east of the entry are the original openings, as far as we know?
Yes.
Okay. And the windows directly to the west, staff doesn't have any concern that they've been separated?
There are some concerns over that. However, this is where their living room is going to be, and that's let more light in, and the applicant has been very cooperative with the board as well as staff on addressing our concerns. So while it does change the window, the Juliet balconies do kind of bring it to its original to a degree.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you. Applicant?
Hello again. I'm Leonard Woods. I don't know if I can add upon what Aaron has said, except that we've worked very diligently with Frederic and Aaron, and this board is so lucky to have such a staff because they are so knowledgeable about the neighborhood, and they've been an enormous help to us in developing the project in a way which is sensitive to the neighborhood. And that's what we have tried to do. I think it's obvious, so maybe I'll just open it up to questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions of the applicant? Well, I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I live in the neighborhood, and I'm absolutely thrilled to see that someone is willing to take on this property because it has been in a state of disrepair for as long as I've lived there, and that's 7 years, but even longer than that. So I know that the neighborhood is thrilled that the owner's willing to make this investment. I guess my only question is, I think that everything is really beautifully done, and I think it will, the house will be more proportional to the size of the lot with these additions. I think really my only concern is just those original 2 openings, to the west.
Yes, on the right-hand side. Yeah, that was a real quandary because the room that is there is the original living room, and of course it's quite small, and we're adding it's about a third of the dimension to make it appropriately scaled for the use of the building. And unfortunately, the windows that are existing are simply too small for that scale of a room. And it was a real quandary. Fortunately, all of the entrance door, the windows in the bedroom above, and the windows to the left remained appropriate for the spaces which are there. But we simply couldn't find a way to incorporate these small windows into a room of that size. And so we tried to do it in a way that was reflective of what the house was once like. But it was a case of inside versus outside.
Okay. Do we have any further questions of the applicant?
I just want to thank you for taking the comments from last month and taking another month and work hard to make it happen.
Well, you should thank your staff. They have done an amazing job, and they've been incredibly helpful. And I think it's a better project because of them. So the kudos go to them.
We love to hear that. Well, if there won't be any further questions, we'll see if there's public comment. Okay, thank you. Do you have any members of the public that are here to speak on this case? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into executive session. So as I stated, that was my only concern, is that that original opening wasn't being maintained. But I hear, I didn't have a chance to watch the meeting, but I hear you all wrestled with this design for quite a while at the last meeting, and that they've made quite a few changes, and staff seems to be pleased with the new development. So does anybody have any further comments, or do we want to make a motion?
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 1907 for ad valorem pre-construction additions, alterations, main house, demolition of accessory structure. Do we have to do the demolition separate?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can
So
just do
let's
the
start again.
demolition second. Or, well, actually, it would make sense to do it first, yeah.
So I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 1907 for demolition in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 94-49 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then with the second motion, there's one condition.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 1907 for ad valorem pre-construction additions and alterations in accordance with standards 9 and 10, I believe. Which states new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be comparable with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Standard 10 states new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. The motion is based on the testimony Well, as set forth in Section 9449 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations, the motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the historic preservation element of the comprehensive plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, the additional compatibility criteria set forth in Section 9449 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The condition include the following: the height of the proposed accessory structure shall be decreased 1.5 feet, or the side yard setback of 5 feet shall be increased by 1.5 feet, or any combination thereof to ensure compliance with wall height at side setback requirement of the zoning ordinance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for working with us, and we look forward to seeing the progress. Moving on to new business, case number 19-15, 215 South Olive Avenue.
Good evening, Frederic Mittner, presenting the request for a local landmark designation of the structure located at 215 South Olive Avenue, or more commonly known as the WAG Building. It is located right south of the alley, west of Olive Avenue, and between Datura and Avernia Street in downtown West Palm Beach in our central business district. It is a very ornate building that I think many are familiar with because of its architectural style, its Mediterranean Revival style, designed by Harvey and Clark. The majority of construction occurred in 1925, with the grand opening happening in 1926, and it was actually listed on the local register of historic places in 2011. This request this evening is to elevate its historic status at the local level with a landmark designation. This would entitle the applicant to apply for a second set of transfer of development rights on this property, and so the new property owner has recognized its architectural significance and has wanted to move forward with this. Here are some of the beautiful details, even high up on the roof on this building. Really, the only thing that has changed are the storefront doors. This is a historic image. Everything else remains intact. It's just these ground floor openings. So therefore, because of its integrity and the fact that it meets criteria A, B, D, and E of the city's landmark criteria in our historic preservation ordinance, and again, as I mentioned, the retention of integrity through the Secretary of Interior standards, we are recommending approval of this as a local landmark.
Okay, questions of staff? Well, I love this building.
Thank you.
And I think the landmark designation is a great program to add additional incentive to protect historic buildings. So I think it's great. Any questions, or would someone like to?
We do have the owner here.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. And this would make the fourth landmark building in the city.
Great. Thank you.
I'm Neil Seidman.
Hello.
I guess I'm here to answer any questions you have, or, I mean, obviously a very unique building. I fell in love with it about 5 years ago. I bought it from a gentleman named Ray Nordine. I've cleaned up a lot of things inside the building. I would like to do some work on the outside, subject to Frederic's approval, and there's probably no prettier building in West Palm Beach, in my opinion.
Well, do we have any questions of the applicant? Okay. Thank you for being such a great steward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into executive session. If you would like to make the motion, the wording is in your packet.
This case came to be heard on March 26, 2019, at a public hearing before the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board on the application for the designation of the WAG building located at 215 South Olive Avenue as a historic landmark under Ordinance 4794-18. The board, upon reviewing the report and recommendation of the historic preservation planner and hearing testimony from the public on such application, makes the following finding of fact. 1, the subject building is an architecturally significant structure which is of high importance. It was constructed in 1925. 2, the subject building is an excellent example of the Mediterranean Revival architecture style within the city. 3, the subject building was designed by Harvey and Clark and is an excellent example of the master firm's work. 4, the subject building is identified with the Lamb Boom period, West Palm Beach, 1920 to 1928. 5, the loss of the subject building to the city would be significant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to case number 19-17, 1207 Florida Avenue.
Aaron Bornriver, Historic Preservation Planner. Historic Preservation case number 19-7 for an ad valorem pre-construction for 1207 Florida Avenue. Here we have the project location highlighted in red. The request is by Mr. Hernandez for an ad valorem pre-construction for a one-story master bedroom addition in the rear of the 1922 contributing house measuring approximately 454 square feet, demolition of an existing non-original carport, and new construction of an accessory structure with a two-car garage and a guest suite measuring approximately 865 square feet, and this property is located within the Grandview Heights Historic District. On the left, we have the east elevation, which faces Florida Avenue, and on the right, we have the west elevation, which is taken from the backyard. Here we have the existing carport. The image on the left is the adjacent property to the south, and the image on the right is the adjacent property to the north. Here we have the existing site from the alley standpoint. The image on the left is from the 1926 Sanborn map, which shows the existing 1922 house, as well as an accessory structure that was 2 stories in the rear of the property. And on the right is the 1967 property record card, which shows the 1922 house once again, but as well as that accessory structure that was located there in the carport within the yellow box. This is the proposed site plan and floor plan for the first floor of the main house, as well as the accessory structure floor plan. The site plan conforms with all the zoning requirements. Here we have the east elevation, which will be visible from Florida Avenue. The accessory structure is partially visible from the street. It features a stucco finish, a crimped metal roof to match the existing home, as well as wood trim around most of the doors and openings. This is the south elevation, where you can see the master bedroom addition, which will have a metal roof, a smooth stucco finish, as well as a wood trim around the windows. And this elevation on the accessory structure is one of the few that does not have any wood trim around the door. Here we have the west elevation, which will be visible from the alley, which has a door into the guest suite, as well as a window and the garage door. The garage door is actually on both elevations, so there will be access from Florida as well as the alley. This is the north elevation, which features the addition as well as the accessory structure, and the accessory structure is about 13.5 feet, while the master bedroom addition is about 12.5 feet in height. Staff has reviewed the criteria for additions and alterations, and it meets the Historic Preservation Ordinance as well as the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 and 10. The new addition, because of the stucco finish, it's in the rear of the property. You can tell it's an addition, but also the metal roof and the wood trim around the windows and doors pays respect back to the main house. The review criteria for demolition, none of these 7 standards are applicable for denial for a non-original carport. And the review criteria for new construction meets the Historic Preservation Ordinance as well as the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 and 10. Historically, there was an accessory structure in the back of this property. A lot of the properties on this block also have accessory structures in the rear. The configuration has changed as well as its location, because you can't build on the property line, but it's paying respect to that historic build out that existed, as well as the stucco finish will make it clear that it's a new construction. Staff is going to recommend approval of the ad valorem pre-construction with the 3 conditions: that applicant shall be required to revise the project data details to accurately reflect the zoning ordinance definitions. The applicant shall be required to ensure the scale is accurate on the drawings, and the west and east elevation garage doors shall feature historically appropriate architectural elements with the appearance of two doors, similar to these examples that were found within various historic districts within the city. And the architect, Jeffrey Breiser, is here as well. Thank you.
Great. Questions of staff?
Once again, I'm a little confused. In our package here, it says that the additions and alterations do not comply with standards 9 and 10.
My apologies, that must be a typo.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Do you have any issue with the 2 garage doors? I know that's fairly atypical for a historic district.
For the 2 garage doors, no, because the driveway is already existing on Florida Avenue, and it's traditional to use an alley for vehicle access. The current proposed garage doors are an issue, but the fact that there will be 2 garage doors that will allow the property owner essentially just drive through, while unusual, it would be asking too much for them to remove the driveway on Florida Avenue.
Okay.
Can you expand a little bit more on the condition number 3, please?
Yeah, so condition number 3, the current garage door doesn't give the appearance of what's historically appropriate for a vernacular house. The home does have kind of American Foursquare elements to it, but it lacks the symmetry of it as well as the front entranceway. So a more appropriate door would be similar to the 2 examples. It doesn't have to be 2 physical doors. It could just be a single garage door with the appearance of 2 doors. So that's the motivation behind that condition.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank
I
you.
would also like to add that there is some public comment I received, and one of the concerned residents is here.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Applicant? Oh, we'll take the applicant now, and then we will take public comment.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jeffrey Brasseur, architect. There was an oversight on my drawings. I will be putting stucco banding around the doors to match the house's detail. And we have absolutely no problem with adding the carriage-type decorative detailing on the garage doors. The project's direction was the actual addition on the back of the house was for Rolando's mother to live. She's getting a little older and needed a ground floor space to live in. And the garage and guest suite addition, detached addition, which is, as you know, below the maximum allowed, was for family guests, as well as having a proper garage, which he does not have now. I can't really add too much more than what Aaron had presented in front of you, so if you have any questions, let me know.
Questions of the applicant?
There was the correspondence received from an opposing party, and you have a right to receive that if you haven't had a chance to review it.
I have not received anything.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with just giving me a quick overview as opposed to having to read this as to what the issue is? Or are you not allowed to do that?
I think if you just want to read it really quickly and see if there's anything that you want to address. As far as the quality of construction, I mean, the materials are outlined in the packet here, and staff approves of the material choices. And then in regards to the size and height, I mean, they're within,
Is it possible to have the one of the opposing?
is that how you'd like to?
Yeah, and then we
Okay,
can
okay.
talk about it together.
Before we bring up for public comment, do we have any further questions of the applicant? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, are you in agreement with the conditions of approval?
I'm sorry, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
He does have a rebuttal
Yes.
opportunity, so.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have some members of the public that would like to speak on this item. Yes, if you'd like to come up to the podium, please.
This gentleman needs to be sworn in as well.
Okay, thank
He
you.
wasn't here earlier.
Have you been sworn in, sir?
No,
Okay, could we please swear him in?
I have an application here.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ronald Pack. My wife is Lisa Pack. We are the neighbors to the north of Mr. Hernandez's property. We're at 1201 Florida Avenue, and he's south of us at 1207. We live in a historic home, and what we are concerned about, and by the way, Mr. Hernandez has the perfect right to build on his property. It's his property, and he's an American and all that. But anyhow, the problem we're concerned about is the existing property from the front of the existing residence to the back of the new construction is about 100 feet. The existing residence is 30 feet, and the new bedroom addition being added on is about 25 feet. And then there would be 25 feet of what I call unobstructed view. And then the last part of the property, which will have the garage, guest suite, cabana, whatever, is another 25 feet. So right now, the property line for the existing property is about 5.5 feet back from the existing fence. So if the property that's going to be built remains in that 5.5 foot setback and goes all the way to the rear, we will have our view obstructed by 75 feet that we cannot see south. There'll be 25 feet that would be unobstructed, but as importantly, we have an existing fence there now that is 6 feet high, and the new construction to the top of the roof will be 13.5. So we'll be looking south at about 25% of the property, and the existing roof will be 12.5 feet high, and really it mostly blocks our view to the south. So we were concerned about that. Is there a way to move the property more toward the center of the property or something that would accommodate Mr. Hernandez, or something that would give us some relief from looking south? And there's an asterisk to the north of us is a condominium that takes up all of N Street, and they just built a 150-foot high garage behind that. So we now cannot look to the north really without obstruction. Has, again, nothing to comment relatively, but we very much like our yard is a jungle. We have all kind of trees and so forth, Florida trees, and we want to be able to appreciate that, looking both to the south and to the north.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'll allow the architect to respond, but unfortunately, we don't have any purview over preserving your view shed or your view from your property.
From our property.
Oh, if you could come to the microphone, sorry. So as long as they're within what's allowed by the code, then they're able to place it on the property where
Yes, I don't really know what the code is in terms of setback. It's currently about 5.5 feet. And it shows on the drawings that it's going to be in the same line, east to west, going all the way back to the alley. So we would have about 25 feet of unobstructed view, 13.5 feet high and 75 feet wide, including the existing 30-foot wide house, the new bathroom addition, and the new garage addition of 75 feet total out of the 100.
Okay.
So that's what we're concerned about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
As you know, and staff knows that both the addition and the new structure is within all of the allowable setbacks, the allowable size. We do have a very shallow hip roof on both the additions to match the existing house. So I believe the height is, on my my drawings may look a little taller than it actually is, but in reality, it's a hip roof. I think it's a 312, and the size and the scale of the garage and guest quarters, I think, fits fine. Unfortunately, the reality of the site is that the backyard does slope up significantly. A natural slope. It's not us doing it. So we're just dealing with that. And also the height of the garage is pretty close to, I think, an acceptable minimum. I believe the beam height's 9 feet. It's not excessively tall. And that's about all I have to say. If anybody has any questions, I'm here.
Do you have any questions? Sir, well, do you want to answer any of his questions? You don't have to, but if you want to
Sure, of
address.
course.
Since you will still be neighbors, well, not you, but if you'd like to, if you could come up to this podium, please, just so we could capture what you're saying.
I wanted to confirm the height. The height shows 13 and a half feet high from the rear level of the property, 13 and a half feet high. Roughly 10 feet building and 3 feet additional, roughly 13 and a half.
Yeah, that height is to the peak of the hip roof.
Right.
The beam height, which is with the surrounding, the height of the actual structure of the
10.
ceiling is about 9 feet. So as it peaks up, it goes to 13. So you're not getting a full 13. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this? Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Andy Walker, and I was just interested in what was being proposed. And my concern would be, I don't actually have a concern, my interest would be the aesthetics from the alley side, as my property faces the alley, and that's an active area, so that I just wondered about landscaping. They answered the question about the garage door, thank you.
Okay. We don't have any purview over the landscaping, but I don't know if you have any plans in mind that you wanted to share.
We don't at this point, but knowing my client, I'm sure he's going to landscape it properly, and I'm sure it's going to look nice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And sir, if we could also get your card just before you leave. If you could please give it to the board secretary. Yes.
Excuse me, Chair. It's possible that with the addition and the new construction that it will exceed 50% of the improvement value, which will trigger current landscaping requirements.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We'll, of course, adhere to that.
Okay. So I guess we'll go into executive session. It seems like the applicant is amenable to the conditions of staff. So unless anyone would like to discuss it further, we will need 2 motions for this project, one for demolition.
I just wanted to,
Yes.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Is Mr. Pack saying that right now he has a clear, unobstructed view into his neighbor's yard, and then with the construction, that view will be obstructed? I couldn't follow exactly what his concern was. And he says he has landscaping and trees and everything, like, it just seemed contradictory.
I think just it's the concern of, well, that was 2 different people with the landscaping and one with
I
the
understand
view.
that, but Mr. Pack mentioned both a obstructed view versus an unobstructed view, and the fact that they have extensive vegetation that they enjoy. And I just
So
couldn't
maybe he was
see.
just concerned about that vegetation would have to be removed during construction.
Okay, so in other words, the landscaping he's concerned with is on the adjacent property, not on his property?
I have no concern at all with it.
Sir, I'm sorry, again, if you'd like, I mean, we are in executive session, but did you want to ask him a question so he can clarify for you?
I have no concern whatsoever with landscaping.
Okay, but
Nothing
you
to
did-
do
you-
with anything.
Okay, you did mention something about on your property, you and your wife enjoy your trees.
This
and
is a
trees.
comment about, we would see to the rear for our, but on looking south, we wouldn't see anything other than building, except for 25 feet of depth
Okay, so,
and 13 feet of height, although admittedly, the tip of the roof is 13, but the sides are 9 to 10. But if you look at that, we have a 6-foot fence right there right now, and the existing property is 2-story. So at least for 30 feet of our looking south is the existing building 5 feet back from our property line. And now there will be an additional 50 feet added to the existing 30, total of 130.
so you're, I apologize if this is all perfectly obvious to everybody else, but are you saying you're going to have a wall of building that you're going to be looking at now? Is that your objection?
Yes, I'm going to be looking at 75 feet of building
Okay,
to the south out of 100.
okay. And under the current circumstances, is your view just into your neighbor's backyard, or is there a clear view like further down?
No, it's a clear view from the back of their house, which is
Okay.
30 feet deep. By the way, there's 35 feet additionally from the front of the house to the street.
Okay,
But, that's the walkway and so forth. That doesn't really, not what we're concerned about at all.
Okay.
There's no construction there. Right now, there's a 30-foot house, 2 stories high, and they're going to add 2 additional structures out of the remaining 75 feet.
Yeah,
of
no, I
which
get that, all
we
that. I
25.
get all
So
of
out of
that,
100,
right.
we see 25.
yeah,
Otherwise, we'd be looking at wall along
right.
the whole.
Yeah, no, I
the
get
whole
that.
north, we're from the north view, looking south.
Right. I understand that. In my former home, our neighbor put on a second floor structure, and yeah, you get that feeling of a looming building,
Yeah, it'll be 5 feet back.
Right, yeah.
Right now, he shows it as 5 feet back from our existing property line.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much, Mr. Peck.
Okay. We have a 6-foot fence there now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so any further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
Are we going to need 2 resolutions on this?
Yes, one for demolition of the carport.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 19-17 for demolition of the carport in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. This motion is based upon the testimony presented, along with the application submitted, the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 19-17 for additions in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in the section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based upon the testimony presented, along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. An historic preservation element of the comprehensive plan of the City of West Palm Beach, Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Additional compatibility criteria is set forth in Section 94-49 of the City's Zoning and Land Development Regulations, specifically criteria 1 through 9. The conditions include the following. Ad valorem pre-construction additions and alterations. 1, the applicant shall be required to revise the project data details accurately reflect the zoning ordinance definitions. 2, the applicant shall be required to ensure the scale is accurate. B, for new construction of the accessory structure, 1, the west and east elevation garage doors shall feature historically appropriate architectural elements with the appearance of 2 doors, and as the architect stated, incorporate the stucco banding.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to case number 19-16, 801 Claremore Drive.
Frederique Mittner presenting an ad valorem pre-construction application for both additions and alterations at the contributing property located at 801 Claremore Drive. As you can see on the aerial, it is located at the northwest corner of Claremore Drive and Lake Avenue in the Flamingo Park Historic District. The structure was built in 1953 in the modern style, and the request by the applicant is again for an ad valorem application to remove an non-original screen porch, make window and door modifications, including opening sizes and locations, removal of permastone near the entrance, and the change of the non-original support to a V-shaped column support. Add an addition of approximately 1,085 square feet for a living room, master bedroom suite, and additional bedroom, as well as interior and site modifications. I know this looks like a laundry list of items, but really it is kind of bringing the building back to its original. There's only been a few owners over the years, and some alterations have been made, as you can see in this image. This is a view from looking from the south east to the northwest, and so this is, in essence, its frontage, the narrowest part of the lot, and then this is along Lake Avenue. So you see the retaining wall, which is a prominent feature. And then this is the permastone that I referenced, as well as some screen enclosures here and lattice work here. As you move towards the west, this is where one of the driveways is located. And again, alterations and additions have been added and made to this property over the years. This is on the Lake Avenue side, and again, this area has been enclosed both with lattice work and screen on the back, and a creative use of a jalousie door here. This is actually not an original garage door, because the original owner had a different last name and also indicated, the last owner indicated to the current owners that they installed these doors. So we have oral documentation that they are not original garage doors. This is the survey. So again, the linear nature of the property along the Lake Avenue side, where you do see the multiple driveways. And the proposal. First, some of the demolition aspects. This is that lattice and screen porch area. This is really just a kind of lean-to shed. And then the other dashed lines are primarily just windows and doors that would be modified for new windows and doors. And then this little screen entry with a non-original column. So looking at the elevations of the existing elevations versus the proposed, first looking at the north side. So this would be the existing north side. This small area that's dashed in the proposed elevations is that lean-to shed, which you have images of in your packet. And then this is the new construction. the darker line, which is that expansion of the master bedroom, suite, and living room to the west. But it's set back quite a ways from the the north elevation. It's along the south property line. The proposed west elevation, this is the existing west elevation, which is really the interior courtyard side, and the modifications are there to windows and doors, and then this is the new addition that is blocking the view of what was there before. The south elevation, which is probably the most prominent in the sense that it's the front, and this is what you see here. So the door will remain. There is a proposal to change this original window opening, which staff has a condition for that. And then this is all an addition to the west. And that makes sense in this proposal because all the properties along Claremore really have frontage along Claremore. And this has really been focused on the east side of the lot. And then the east side, which faces Lake Avenue, is again the removal of the permastone, a change of windows to doors, a more appropriate architecturally V-shaped support than the non-original here. They are increasing the height of the windows here, but retaining the location. They are changing them from a single window to double. And then this is all a new addition. Again, that was that lattice screen area that was not original. So this is infilling in a gap that existed with a roof line that's compatible to the existing and windows that would reflect the height of the windows in this space. And then the addition, keeping the roof line here and expanding the garage to the 2 bays from, again, a non-original. So even though it appears to be a lot of changes, it's really scaling back to the original plus an addition with just slight modifications. So staff has reviewed the application in detail and the photos and had discussions with the applicants as well. And and we are recommending approval with the following conditions: that the site wall remain in place, which you see, again, you see a snippet of here, and the original opening of the south-facing windows will remain the same. Otherwise, it does meet the Historic Preservation Ordinance and the Secretary of the Interior standards, and the applicant is amenable to those 2 conditions. We have the architect and the property owners here in attendance as well.
Okay, questions of staff?
Do you have any concern over the number of original openings that are being modified on the Lake Avenue frontage?
I don't, because it is a side elevation, even though it's very visible from the street, because it really just raises one set of windows, splits the other one, and the other one's infill, and it elongates the garage. I think they're all architecturally compatible. And again, many of the modifications are really to non-original parts.
Does this project comply with all the setbacks, FARs, and zoning regulations?
It does, actually. We think it's a very sympathetic design to stay at the 1-story. Many people were looking at building a 2-story addition. We think this is very appropriate. And meets all the setbacks, yes, and FAR and lot coverage.
Do you believe the permastone was a later addition?
We do, after having looked at it and having discussions, and I'll perhaps let the owners elaborate on that because they've had that oral discussion with the previous owners.
Further questions of staff? Okay, thank you. Applicant?
Hello again, Jeffrey Brasseur, architect. I'm not going to elaborate anymore other than on what Frederic has presented. The permastone, though, unfortunately, we actually, all of us like it, the owner and myself, but it seems like it's just been kind of glued on as an afterthought on that one little tiny elevation, and we just didn't think it needed to stay. You know, we are, the size of the addition is, you know, smaller than what is allowed It was actually largely, I can't take full credit for it, it was largely designed by Jim and Doug. And I think they did a great job keeping it sensitive to the existing architecture. We did want to make those windows taller on that elevation that Ms. Kellogg was asking about. It seemed to me like there was just the old windows, both on the inside and on the outside, were just a little too squat, a little too short. So that was one of the reasons why we did that. If you have any questions, I'll be right here.
Just curious, what are you doing with the HVAC system?
We're still in the planning, yeah, I guess, yeah. It's the wall hungs are coming out, and we're going to be doing a central air system. At this point, we have 3 systems going around, and we're going to be doing a lot of soffits into the best places we can think of.
So you're taking the wall mounted?
The wall units are coming out. There will not be any P-tax or package units or anything like that. And we're going to try not to put anything on the roof, of course. The condensing units will be within the allowable, will be placed within the side setbacks within their allowable sites.
I just want to say that I'm really excited to see this project. A lot of times on our board, we have mid-century structures that come before us, and people don't celebrate what is unique and special about them or appreciate them. And you have taken a structure that I think most people wouldn't see the beauty in. And like I said, you've celebrated everything that's special and unique about it. The detailing at I guess it's the front door or the Lake Avenue, the lakeside. I think that's incredibly appropriate for the house. I'm just excited to see it and have these mid-century structures really live again.
I really do appreciate that, but I want you guys to know that Doug and Jim were really the designers on this project, the owners, the current owners right now. So I can't get all that credit. Thank you.
And are there, in relation to the site wall, are there design elements that relate to it? Is there a brick pave driveway, or is it just kind of?
No, it's interesting because that little wall goes around the whole property, and you're right, it's a concrete and brick low wall that really doesn't relate to anything else on the house. In fact, it reminds me of something that would have been a lot older than when the house was built. But we are keeping it and repairing it as per requested, and it's a little whimsy, fun wall that is what it is, and we're going to leave it alone.
Because at first glance, I was thinking that the permastone related to that, but that was probably just because they're both very dirty.
No, it has
they kind of complement each other.
No, not at all. It's a a random kind of permastone, and then the wall is what it is.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant? Is there anything you gentlemen would like to add? No?
I'm very excited.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public that are here to speak on this case? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into executive session. And this is just one motion for this project. It's needed.
Is it just one motion?
Mhm.
Okay. I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 1916 for ad valorem pre-construction, and in accordance with standards 1 through 10 as set forth in section 94-49 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the historic preservation element of the comprehensive plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 9 and 10, which state new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationship that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Standard 10 states, new additions, an adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. Therefore, the city staff is recommending approval of the application as submitted for alterations and additions with the following conditions. 1, the existing site wall shall remain in place as is. 2, retain the opening size of the pair of south-facing windows.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to case number 19-12, 415 27th Street.
Aaron Borngraber, Historic Preservation Planner, Historic Preservation Case Number 1912 for alterations for windows for 415 27th Street. This is the project location highlighted in red. The request tonight is by Kimball Bird for a certificate of appropriateness for installation of 2 picture vinyl windows and 1 vinyl casement window with a bronze exterior and low E glass on the south street facing elevation. The installation of a single fiberglass door with a single panel of glass on the west elevation, and 415 27th Street is a contributing structure within the Old Northwood Historic District. This is the existing elevation, and these are the 2 windows. They're awning windows that are to be replaced with the vinyl casement window right here and the vinyl picture windows right here. The door that the applicant's proposing to replace as well is right around this corner right here, and I did speak to the property owner and he intends on removing the accordion shutters. This is the property immediately to the west. As you can see, there has been some replacement windows on this property at some point in the past. This is an example of the bronze frame window supplied by the applicant. And this is an example of the picture window that the applicant is proposing, as well as the casement window. So staff has reviewed the criteria for alterations, and this does not comply with the Historic Preservation Ordinance or the Secretary of Interior Standards number 6. The windows appear to be in good condition, and when windows are to the point where they can't be repaired anymore, they should be replaced with features that match the olden design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, as well as whenever possible materials. So staff is going to recommend the approval of the application for certificate of appropriateness with the following conditions. First is the applicant shall install aluminum or fiberglass windows. Second, the applicant shall install windows with a white or anodized aluminum frame trim for color. The applicant shall replace the existing window configuration with muttons and an XOX pattern on the dominant street facing window. That's that window with the 3 awning windows, and Mr. Bird is here with a presentation.
Okay. Do you have any questions of the applicant? I'm sorry, of staff.
When you are suggesting a condition number 2 and says anodized aluminum, what type of anodized? Is white anodized, or what you mean? Because it can be different anodized finishes.
Right, so for condition number 2, that's really for the exterior trim in the windows. Currently, they have that anodized aluminum trim because they're aluminum windows, but white would also be appropriate. The anodized aluminum trim is far more appropriate because that's matching in color, but as you saw from the other house that was immediately next to it, they do have white, and a lot of people do tend to go with white as well. So this is just frame color.
Have you had the opportunity to review the conditions with the applicant?
These were also the same conditions that were proposed for the building permit.
Okay. And do they have any feedback? I guess we'll ask them.
Yeah, Mr. Bird is here and he does have a presentation.
Okay. Any further questions?
Question, so I understand that as currently proposed, it doesn't meet standard 6 with the recommended approvals, with the recommended conditions. Would it then be the city's recommendation that it meets standard 6?
Yes, with the proposed conditions of approval, it would comply with Secretary of Interior Standard Number 6.
I have a similar question along
Okay.
those lines, and I wonder if our attorney would, if it doesn't meet the standards, shouldn't it be denied and then the applicant reapply with the proper windows that you recommend?
If the board would like to go with a denial, that is also an option. Everything that's being proposed, if it was aluminum windows or even fiberglass windows, could actually be approved at the building permit level for level 1. And the fiberglass door is actually appropriate. And as I didn't mention, the actual appearance of it, I'll defer to the applicant.
Okay, so we can just, despite the non-compliance, we can approve with conditions.
Yes, or you can also deny it if that's a decision you would like to go forward with.
Yeah.
I think if the applicant is willing to accept the conditions and those bring it into compliance, then it would be acceptable.
Okay, great.
So long as you've stated that, on the record and put that into your motion, I think that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
And also, if we denied and they had to reapply, they'd have to pay the application fee again, right?
Correct. They would have
Oh, yeah, we
to.
don't
That's
wanna-
also what we're
Yeah, we
trying
don't
to
want to put the
avoid.
applicant jump through hoops again, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, applicant?
Can you go back? Pass on the curve.
Good evening to all of the board members. It is, and I have to thank you for your willingness. I really appreciate your willingness to serve in this particular capacity because you often have to make very, very sharp distinctions with relatively blunt instruments. I don't see this process, and my conversations with your staff has not been adversarial. It's been collaborative. It's been an extended conversation with explanatory kinds of digressions, I guess would be the best way of characterizing it. I would like to echo Board Member Kellogg's earlier comment about mid-century modern and appreciating that, or mid-century, I should say, not modern, because I certainly do appreciate that. I had prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but your staff has basically illuminated the specific ideas and put forth some conditions that we certainly can both appreciate and approve. The idea behind what we're going to do, of course, was to, in a cost-efficient, cost-effective manner, to upgrade the appearance, the exterior appearance of the particular house. And in light of the demolitions and the expansions and additions and new constructions that you've heard before, this might seem very mundane. And to some degree it is. It is, however, meaningful to us because this is really the precursor for the restoration of the house as a whole. This is the first step. We have about 15 other windows that need to be included also as part and parcel of this. We are not developers, we're not builders, we're simply homeowners who live in a wonderful neighborhood and want to be in compliance as long as it's economically feasible with whatever the rules or regulations that have been established in the historical district. As I said, I had a complete PowerPoint presentation, but that's redundant at this point in time. And if there's a need for me to state that I will accept the conditions, we certainly will accept the conditions that are imposed because those conditions are consistent with the requirements and the dictates of the specific standards. Thank you.
Thank you for making our job so easy, being so agreeable.
Well, it's been a collegial conversation along with the members of your staff. They do a wonderful job in terms of engaging with homeowners, and we'll be back to them again for a couple of other things as part and parcel of this.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any questions of the applicant? No? Okay, thank you. Do you have any members of the public that are here to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into executive session. So it sounds like the property owner is amenable to the conditions. So unless there's any further discussion, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 1912 for alterations in accordance with standards 1 through 10 as set forth in section 9449 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted in the staff report, which constitute competent, substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguard that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Historic Preservation element of the Comprehensive Plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, specifically Standard 6, which states deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of the distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. The additional compatibility criteria set forth in section 9449 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The conditions include the following. 1, the applicant shall install aluminum or fiberglass windows. 2, the applicant shall install windows with white or anodized aluminum frame. And 3, the applicant shall replicate the existing window configurations with muttons in an XOX pattern on the dominant street-facing window.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to case number 19-11, 313 Croton Way.
Frederick Mittner also presenting an application request for alterations to windows. This one is for the property located at 313 Croton Way. As you can see, it's just on the north side of Croton Way, but it also has a second street frontage of Sophia Drive to the north. So that's actually a real street, not just a tiny alleyway. In the Mango Promenade Historic District, it was built in 1921 in the American Four-Square style, and it has all of its original wood windows. And the request is to replace 49 windows and 6 doors with double-hung low-E vinyl window product with a simulated divided light with an internal grid, so not even an exterior dimensional grid. The color was not specified in the application, and staff has concerns because they are such spectacular windows and there are so many of them. There are other hurricane protection methods, whether it is an armor screen product or a removable panel, but these 3/1 existing windows are wood and they're in good condition and they're visible from 2 public right-of-ways, and they even have the lovely glass that is wavy, that is evident from the street. So I just want to show you some of the spectacular windows in this house. This is off the back. These are obviously alterations that have been made over time on that ground floor accessory structure that's now attached. And again, you can even almost see it in the picture, but kind of the texture to the glass here. This was the proposal that was submitted. Again, it indicated a vinyl frame, but it had no frame color indicated, and it did say the simulated divided light, which is not an exterior raised, which would have been in this category here, and it is for a vinyl window product. So staff has reviewed the application. It does not meet standard 6 in any way, where it states deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Again, we did not see any evidence of deterioration. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, which again in this situation, it is very distinctive. 49 windows really makes up the majority of these elevations. The new feature shall match the old in design, which has not been presented. Color was not presented. Texture, which again the vinyl product does not replicate the wood product, and other visual qualities and where possible materials. This board does have a policy of typically allowing a aluminum window, but again, vinyl is not what's typically supported for a contributing structure. Also standard 9, that it's compatible, again, with materials and features, and we do not believe it meets that either. So staff is recommending denial of the application in front of you for these wood windows being replaced with vinyl windows.
Questions of staff?
What is the current hurricane protection system that they use?
I don't believe they have any, but I will let them answer that.
Because whatever it is, obviously it's worked since the beginning of the window.
Well, I'm going to have to defer to them what they do when there's a storm coming. I don't see any visual evidence of any anchoring system there.
And are they, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Is the applicant aware of staff's concerns?
I did leave the applicant a voice message, and mainly I've been in correspondence with the not the owner, but the applicant being the window company, so I've been in communications with them quite a bit.
Do we know that the windows are fully operational?
I did not operate the windows myself, no, I can't speak to that.
Any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant? And have you been sworn in? I can't recall if you, okay, you were here. Okay, there were so many people standing at the beginning of the meeting, I can't remember.
Right, this application is.
Could you
just
please
for-
state your name?
Yes, my name is David Horcott, and this is my spouse, Sharon Horcott.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Right, so our application isn't for any demolition, but just for fenestration, and it's correct that it's about 49 windows and doors. As far as the look, we love the look of the historic house. I've lived there since 2003, and what we wanted to do was update the windows and keep the look. And so the current windows are double hung with the ropes and the weights and so forth, and some of them are broken. Some of our windows we can't close quite all the way. There's a little gap at the bottom and so forth. Our main motivation really was for hurricane protection. We're getting older. We didn't want to really go and have to hang things and do things. We wanted something that was convenient for us during a time of a hurricane. So we wanted to do the windows and again, allow the windows. We don't open. They're not operable. So again, we just wanted nice new windows, but we didn't want to change the look. So we hired a company, MaxGuard, and we were assured that they could provide a window that would meet the same look from the outside. My understanding is none of the wood trim around the house will change.
Okay. Do we have any questions of the applicant? And so you're aware of staff's concerns about the product specified, that you're requesting vinyl as opposed to the aluminum product that's normally approved?
Yes, I got a voicemail about that, and I wanted I thought the contractor would be able to answer those kinds of questions, and they're here tonight.
Okay. And have you looked into having the windows repaired? Because they're absolutely beautiful windows, and they're definitely a character-defining feature. And I know there are craftsmen in the area that are very skilled at repairing these original windows. Is that something you've looked into?
I have looked at some individual windows, but not all the windows are original. Even as the presentation showed, there's about 5 or 6 windows in the house that have been changed, since the original construction. I was kind of excited that the new windows would make the appearance and the elevation uniform.
Mm-hmm. And have you looked into any covering such as armor screen or anything like that so that you could retain the original windows?
Right. We've looked at like Bahama shutters and so forth, but I think that would change the look of the house more than the replacement windows.
Okay. Thank you. If the representatives from the window company would like to come up.
I have to be sworn in.
You have to be sworn in?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Bulger. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for MaxGuard Hurricane Windows. And I owe an apology to Frederica and her staff. We apparently dropped the ball on being fully disclosure in terms of the design and the aesthetics of the window. In fact, we had brought one with us.
The design of the window that we had selected was a double hung window to replace the existing.
You can bring up the sample, please.
We have it there. And we can actually have it manufactured custom where we maintain exactly the aesthetics of the existing, whereas the 3 over the 1. And we would be doing a different installation in this application only to be able to maintain the exterior of the wood trim that would go around the existing windows now. So this would be a pocket installation from the interior. So all the wood on the outside would be maintained. The only thing we would be replacing is the existing sashes that currently, after us going through the measure process, they don't operate. So there's either broken the ropes and pulleys that are within the pockets, or they're actually painted shut, which, God forbid, if there's ever a fire, it's a fire hazard built in there. So this would provide them with a pocket installation from the inside. The windows, in essence, would be a master framer on the outside, and it would butt up against the existing exterior stop that's on the outside of the trim. So from the exterior, it would look very, very close to the existing, both in design, style, color, and texture. We had also agreed for the Harcourts to be able to replace all of the existing 6 windows that were installed in the back that had eliminated that wood trim around the existing windows. And we were going to bring that to the original condition with the wood trim around the windows so that all 49 windows matched and looked original as part of the original architecture of the home. And these did have, and I apologize again to Federica, there is an exterior SDL grid. So the grid is on a surface mount, so it's not an interior grid, it's actually on the exterior of the outside pane of the glass. So it does duplicate exactly the way the existing windows do appear.
So the entire portion surrounding the sash, that would all be exposed once installed?
This existing trim is not on the window, but their existing window is here. So this window was installed from the inside, and on the exterior of their sashes, that's what keeps the 2 operable portions of the window in place. There's an exterior trim piece. It's pushed up against that, so it actually covers up right to this point. And then you'd have both sashes, which is atypical or not typical for Florida, where most of them are single hung. So this would give them the access where both sashes will be able to operate to, again, to duplicate or mirror exactly what they currently have now, both in operation as well as with aesthetics. So it would be basically, that's what you would see on the exterior. And all, as I said, again, none of the exterior alterations of the openings or the wood trim would be modified in any way, except for bringing back the 6 or 7 that were replaced in the back already back to the original condition.
And do you offer an aluminum product?
We do. Okay. We've gone to this board before and gotten approved on both aluminum and vinyl in certain applications that they've done both. So we provide aluminum and vinyl, whatever makes sense from a energy standpoint or from an operational. The reason we didn't, and if I had the aluminum here, it doesn't duplicate their existing. I think it would take away from that double hung look that they have and the 3-to-1 look that's there. And I'd be more than happy to provide the board that if you want us to return with a side-by-side example so you can see it for yourself what it would look like.
So you're saying your aluminum product does not come in a double hung configuration?
It does not.
Okay.
Well, for 90% of probably what we do in Florida to meet design pressure codes, most of them are single hung in design, at least the vertical operators, so they are all single hung. So this is a special order kind of a thing. It's rare that we even do double hungs, but we knew the sensitivity of the Architectural Review Board that we wanted to maintain that original double hung with the 3-in-1. This only shows a 2-in-1, but all the windows would have a 3-in-1 exterior grid on the outside to match with the, and we typically install from the outside in, so you do have some modifications exterior when we do that application. This would be all interior, just to make sure that we don't touch the exterior of their architecture.
Do we have any further questions of the applicant?
What kind of warranty you offer for that?
A lifetime on material and labor. So we back up the product, so the customer pays for the windows one time, not over and over again. So it does have the low E, it does have argon, they are insulated, they meet all the design pressure codes. So.
Well, one of the board concerns probably is the decoloration of the vinyl product versus aluminum?
That's a very common response. I'm doing windows now for about 37 years, and the old vinyls did discolor. They now have titanium dioxide and different types of chemicals that they add to it to cause non-discoloration. Usually when that's asked, I say any of the major aluminum manufacturers, PGT, CGI, CWS, Eastern, all make a vinyl window. They will only warranty their aluminum window for 10. They give a lifetime on their vinyl. So I always say they're kind of telling you which one they will stand behind or that they feel confident will last against discoloration.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any members of the public that are here to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll enter into executive session. I think I have one further question of staff. Please. So in what instances, if you can refresh my memory, I feel like we've approved vinyl on non-contributing properties?
I think you're right, Madam Chair. Primarily, it's been non-contributing. I believe there's one or two where the contributing house warranted it for different reasons. Obviously, the double hung, I think, is a situation that we've encountered before because it does only exist in the vinyl product. And so that was simulating the operation.
How important do you feel that is as opposed to the material?
I think if they can meet all the other criteria and the board is leaning towards allowing a replacement either way, if the board is supporting the removal of these windows, I think having the double hung and the vinyl is less of a concern than the loss of the windows in general, but I think that would replicate it better than the aluminum if it meets all the other criteria.
Go ahead.
I've, in the time I've been here, I've never read such strong language in staff's denial. And, I have to agree with them. I think that these windows are a very unique design. This is a beautiful home. The whittled glass is something that's disappearing. We approve so many replacements in situations where the windows are in fact decayed, but these windows can be preserved, and I think part of our job in historic preservation is not just to satisfy the needs of the current owner, but of future owners as well. And I love the old glass in my former home, and I know that these kind of windows can be made workable. I've done it, but as you said, there are people who specialize in making them workable. And the other thing is, these windows have lasted 100 years through 100 years of hurricanes, so they could last another 100 years. That's just my opinion.
I understand the need for hurricane protection. I think we would be really lucky if these windows were just the way they are today, 100 years from now, without protecting them from the hurricanes. However, the owners mentioned that they love the way that the windows look. And in every instance I've ever seen of replacing historic windows with a new product, it doesn't look similar. It's different in every way. Maybe on paper it looks similar because the light pattern's the same, but the dimension and the materiality of these windows isn't replicated in new products, whether it's aluminum or vinyl. Particularly with this structure, the front elevation, it's so prominent. I would at least like to see like an attempt to keep the front elevation windows, even if we're going to approve for the side and rear to be replaced. And as far as vinyl goes, I know that we've done like a test case, Ms. Mittner. I don't know, I haven't seen that property. I don't know if you've been back to it, the one where the accessory structure, we allowed them to put in vinyl.
I mean, it's only been, I think, a year or two. It's wearing very well. I think as the manufacturer, or the window person stated, I think they have come a long way in terms of the discoloration. So I think, again, I think in this situation, vinyl versus aluminum is less of the concern, especially because it does function as the double hung. The one particular one you did mention, though, did not end up installing exterior grids. So again, that would be key, that if they indeed can offer the OG profile to match the existing 301.
And just, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't recall in the time that I've been here that we have approved replacement of windows that are in such good condition. The windows that we've replaced with whatever have been in need of replacement, but these can easily be repaired. And yes, I come from a place where windows have lasted 200 years in pretty rough conditions. So with proper care and work, I think these would last.
And just to clarify for our new board member, if this application had been submitted as replacement aluminum windows, it would have been a staff approval.
It would have been, yes, exactly. So
the only reason it's before us is because
product,
vinyl
yes,
is proposed.
Yes, that's true. So perhaps what Ms. Kellogg's proposing may be a good compromise where we retain the front and then allow the vinyl on the sides.
Okay, thank you.
And the sides are in equally good condition?
Yes.
Historic materials.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we want what's best for the house, and we understand what the owner is requesting. The request does go against most of our standards. So I'm looking at standards 5, 6, and 9 in particular.
Well, how does everybody feel about, I guess, adding a condition that we allow this material to save some of the windows? Because I think we have to keep our standards in mind, but we also have to take into consideration the design approval matrix. And then if this had been submitted as an aluminum replacement, it would have been basically automatically approved, which is unfortunate.
It would have been automatically?
Yes, it's a reversal of what we had previously voted on because there was some pushback.
Okay. So staff's recommendations based on the standards would be irrelevant then?
No, they're not irrelevant. I mean, I think we just have to keep these two things, and in terms of fairness, I think we can't operate, at least in my opinion, as if that doesn't exist, the design approval matrix. I don't know, that's just my feeling on it, and I don't know how anyone else feels about it. I mean, I want to keep these windows, but I also,
I do think it's important to note, though, some of the windows have been replaced prior, and from what I understood from staff, the window company's suggestions, what they're replacing the non-original windows with will help restore the character of the house, versus the new materials that were added.
I believe the number was mentioned as 5.
5 or 6, which is
5 versus 4.
Are those windows?
It's on the rear, too.
Are those windows also wood, the ones that are not original?
And the key here,
I don't think so. Go ahead, Gabe.
and the key is that these windows are in good condition. And yes, we approve for replacement of windows that were completely destroyed. But it's true that if we have gone for approval for aluminum windows, would have been automatically approved.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we went last year, right?
Yeah, which was unfortunate.
Most of the cases that we've seen for window replacement have been for replacing windows that are in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are the non-original windows, what material are the non-original windows?
I believe they're aluminum, but I would defer to the property owner just based on a
He's
visual
nodding.
inspection.
Okay.
And those are on, it looks like the rear of the property,
the
the
Sophia
non-original
Drive.
windows. So it's,
Yes.
I mean, you
See them
don't
here.
read, I mean, you can see, like, you have an original window on this, like, portion that's sticking out, that's to the left of the AC unit, and then on the right, you have a replacement window. I mean, I know the configuration is different, but you can
Yeah.
read that.
Yeah, the
like
6/6.
Right, you can read, though, that there's like not a depth change, even if they do like a single hung or a double hung, the muttons, even with an applied mutton, or however we want to call the grid, I mean, it just doesn't read the same, and I think that this picture perfectly illustrates that. The ones on the bottom that are new, it looks like they do have an applied grid. I could be wrong. The windows, and again, it's the same thing.
Yeah, you
don't
can see
read
the depth of the original
Yeah.
window versus the new window.
Perhaps that could be a condition that is included if the board decides to move forward with some compromise, that the new windows be installed with the depth of the historic windows.
So do we want to craft a condition and then see if the applicant might be open to it? Does someone want to make a motion?
Perhaps the applicant would be willing to continue the application to give time to look into repair of the windows that are in need of repair, and to think about this a little bit more, because 49 windows, it's a lot.
With the windows that are, the newer windows, as a matter of fact, you could probably, it would still be somewhat costly, but for 5 windows, you could have wooden windows custom made that matched everything else.
I guess, let us know if you would like us to approve it this evening, if you'd like to continue to talk to staff a little bit more, and.
Okay, well, I'm mostly interested in having all the windows done so that would look uniform. And also there is a deduction on insurance policies if you can do like a window mitigation, but they make every single door and window has to be inspected and meet their standards. And so that's kind of our enthusiasm for the project, is to have, hurricane-safe windows that meet those standards. And so I don't think we would be open to a compromise, so I think we would like to kind of let the chips fall where they may tonight, and we would love to have these new windows, and our hope is that they would look wonderful from the elevation. So.
Okay, and I think, just to clarify, if you do have a combination of impact and, say, armor screen, or you still get that reduction, correct?
There should still be an insurance benefit to, as long as you provide hurricane protection and demonstrate. But I'm not sure exactly what programs
Yeah.
he's talking about, but my understanding is yes.
Okay.
Do the windows currently have hurricane protection?
No.
And they haven't?
No.
And you've been there how long?
Since 2003. We leave town, and but the house could be damaged.
But it hasn't been.
No, I have come home to a puddle in my living room where the water blew in from around the window, and during the high winds and so forth. So, but it's still standing.
Okay, thank you. So, I think the continuance is not an option that the applicant would like to pursue this evening. So, does someone want to make a motion, and we'll see it receives a second and passes. I think we have, I mean, I thought it was interesting that the double hung is only available in vinyl and not the aluminum. Do we want to see an example of the aluminum next to the vinyl, as the representative from the company offered to do? I mean, that would be a reason for continuance, because we would like more information. Or do you feel you have enough evidence to make your decision this evening?
I think it goes back, for me, it goes back to the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
If they could have avoided coming to our board altogether by putting in this aluminum product, even though it's, I mean, I feel like it's still in conflict with our standards, but can we really deny them something that can be approved according to the matrix? I mean, I don't know that we've ever been in this situation before, so I'm not really sure.
Correct. It's a unique situation. You've got windows in an impeccable condition, and so many of them, and so visible. But that's, and otherwise, you're right. It wouldn't have come in front of you if it was an aluminum product, because of the policy change by the board for various reasons. So again, I think this is a good opportunity to explore a repair or an approval or with conditions, but I also heard the applicant say they're not interested in a combination. So I think that's, I think given the situation, I think it would be ideal to support it with the clarification that we received this evening of the exterior grids, the white frames, recessing it to the historic depth on the sides and rear, but I think it would be ideal if we could keep the front. But obviously, again, I'll leave that to you, since.
But going back to the material, because this is, I feel like this is also a unique situation that the double hung is available in the
Exactly,
vinyl
yes.
and not in the aluminum.
And that is true.
This
I've heard-
manufacturer,
No, actually, I've heard that from multiple sources, yes.
And so that would give more depth than a single, so visually, what would be the difference? I mean, obviously the material would be different.
Well, they're going to have screens on it, and they don't currently have screens because I assume they're just not operating the windows. It'll have a screen over both, but that's how it traditionally would have been. And it would have a little bit more depth, and just, obviously, the function would be the same.
Is that an exterior screen?
It is, yes, so they can operate the windows. And that would have historically been that way as well.
one question I've had, we do so many windows. Are these windows custom made? In other words, can this new product be made to look exactly like the old window?
I'm going to have to defer that to the representative.
Great question.
A 3/1 with the vertical lights?
Yes, they are all custom made. So these aren't stock sized or new construction. They're all custom made. I mentioned that we have to get on actually measure them to right to the 1/8 of an inch. So they take 2 months to actually manufacture, custom made for, and including the grid pattern. So these are, you can in essence mix and match and design whatever, configuration of windows. As I said, again, double hungs are rare. We probably do less than 10% of our entire business in a double hung model. So this is a unique kind of situation. We wanted to, again, emulate the existing as close as possible, as well as bringing up the ones that you showed in the picture to match the front of the home. So at all angles of the home, they would all be the same or consistent.
Okay, and let's say if we went with this, that you would show staff those drawings to make sure that the dimensions of the new product match the existing?
Yes, I'd be able to show you the order that goes in of showing the exact right down to the 1/8 of an inch of what we're having to order custom made on each of the openings for the whole entire drawing plan. I would also be willing, if you want to see the aluminum, I could assure you it will not emulate anything close to what you have now in the existing there. And we do offer aluminum, so I'm not downgrading aluminum. It architecturally will not look anywhere close to what the existing home looks like. This is going to be the closest design that you're going to be able to get to both design, operational, aesthetics, especially with the exterior grids matching the same exact pattern that would be out there in the market. I have access to 15 different vendors, and I'm telling you, this is the one that we could find that closely most matches the existing that's there. And it gives them, as they mentioned, all of the impacts. They don't have to get on ladders and those kind of things. That's one of the major drawing things, as well as the insurance. People do have that. Energy efficiency. They are maintenance free, so you don't have to do anything in terms of maintenance on the windows. And they do operate. So one of the key things, especially on second floor elevation homes, if they do have children, there is a driving force that we hear people wanting to have as a safety to be able to exit the home, God forbid, in an evacuation. These windows, if you were to go there and operate them, I know you think they're in excellent condition, they do not operate, which means if you try to get out of these windows, you're not getting out of the window. So that's something else, I guess, to bear in mind. I think aesthetically, you look at them, they look nice, but from functionality, there's broken ropes. There's the old rope and pulley designs with the lights and the pockets.
Very familiar with those, yeah.
They don't work.
Well, I'm sure they can be repaired.
Yeah.
Yes, extremely expensive to go in to replace custom-made wood sashes is what that's called. It would cost you probably more than the job we've got with them now. It would be
Actually, I'd like to interject. I think we have seen that over and over again, that the repair of wood windows is less than the cost of a new window by half.
I'm actually working on a project now where that is true. It's even less than half to repair.
Yeah, I mean, if you custom make them, I can show you vendors that we deal with all the time. So it's, and again, we have access to any of them. If somebody says they want to do a wood sash in there, they still have to go do an impact solution. So that situation isn't resolved for them. So that was kind of, they let us know what their objectives were, their aspirations and their reversions, if you will. And this is the solution that they seem to favor, as kind of covers all issues for them, from impact, energy, aesthetics, operational, all those components combined together. So I think any of the solutions are possible, but I think this one kind of put everything all together into one, and there's probably a give and take on all of it. So that's going to be your choice as to which way you go. And I'm open to any design, probably as a last alternative, instead of doing the front, if that's one of the versions. If you want to try to restore the side that's already been replaced, I don't know if you notice from the grid patterns on the side, but they're even in what they call a colonial, so they don't even match the existing grid patterns that are there. So if you wanted to see what it looks like restored to the ones that have already been now don't match the existing, you might want to use that as a basis to say, okay, we're going to want to see what that's done, maybe as a consideration to approve the balance of it. I just saw that as maybe as an option on it.
The applied grid on this product, can that profile be customized to match the original, or is it a standard applied
Oh, they
grid?
can actually make them different widths and designs. This is actually what they call a contoured grid, because theirs is what they call a true divided light. This is a simulated divided light, and in a contoured design, instead of which most aluminum windows come in a flat design, this actually has a contour design to emulate the look of a wood grid that would be in the original true divided light style in their original windows.
And can that contour be customized?
You could make them in different widths that they make
Well,
them.
you're just saying widths, but what about the depth?
The shape.
Oh, you mean the depth of them?
Yeah.
You can on these. You can actually have them as different designs in terms of I can get you a picture if you wanted a close-up of their existing grid and saying from the vendors how closely can we match what that pattern is. We can do that.
You're looking for the profile to match the Muntins. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the existing profile is. Maybe it's a flat profile.
No, I don't believe it is. It's not quite OG. It's a little bit more of a pyramid than that, but we can go out and take a look and get the right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Anybody? No? Okay, thank you.
So we're back to executive session?
Yes.
And then just to show you, this window actually has a screen on it here, so that's what it would be with the new one. So, because that is how it traditionally would have been. You would have had screens that would have been darker over all of them.
So,
I'm sorry.
I think we have a few options. We have to deny as staff is recommending, but I think it sounds like it's in light of the new information provided by the window company that it answers a lot of the concerns, addresses a lot of the concerns that staff had. because some of these things were not specified, like the division of the lights and everything. So we could deny, we could continue and ask for a sample of the aluminum window to compare side by side, or I think we could approve with the condition that the company work with staff to match the originals as closely as possible, unless there are any other alternatives.
Well, yeah, just a modification for that, and I don't know if Teddy would agree with this, that, and Kristen brought up this point, that we keep the old windows in the front, the facade, and then have windows new windows manufactured to match the old windows for the side and back. So that would take care of, I mean, at least 80–90% of the windows in the home, and you still have the exact look of the old glass and design of the original windows in the front. And that's not unusual from other decisions that we've made in the past.
Again, I repeat, if the windows were in bad condition.
Yeah.
And none of them are, they are all repairable.
Believe me, I'm on your side with this.
We are the Historic
Right, yeah.
Preservation Board.
Right, okay.
So as far as having them replaced, I think that if they can be repaired, I think that's what we're supposed to
That's what we're about,
go
right,
with.
yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
So this will be the original.
It's whatever motion you would like to
Whatever
make,
you
and
want.
we'll see what happens.
I do have one question. Is there anything prohibiting if we do deny this, if we go through with the motion to deny, to prevent reapplication with aluminum windows?
No, they could do that at a staff level. That was the discussion
So
earlier,
that's
that there's a
something-
policy.
So basically we can deny it and then they can
Switch to-
reapply with aluminum windows and will be approved automatically.
Yeah.
Right, so wouldn't we, be more on course with our mission in, assuring that a product were to go into the entire house that was, more in line with what's there historically with the vinyl window on the entire house versus, something that could be different and automatically approved with an aluminum window?
Extremely tough decision, yeah.
Would it be approved automatically for the
aluminum?
aluminum,
Yes, because
even though
there's-
the condition of the existing windows are repairable?
Yeah.
Yes, this,
Yeah, that was my earlier question, right?
yes.
So would we not be ensuring the integrity of the look with an approval for all of them being replaced? And I understand the preservation of materials, but if it's, a vinyl window that is more aesthetically accurate versus an aluminum window that could be, whatever design, wouldn't that be pushing, more in line with what we're here to do?
Ms. Mittner still has control, even if it comes through the matrix, to make sure that the configuration of the windows does align. Like, they couldn't just put like a 6/6 window in, so.
True, but as far as the material, we would
Right.
approve it. There's actually, again, I have not heard of any aluminum products that offer double hung, but there is a fiberglass product, just throwing that out there as well. But we would make sure it's a 3/1, but we couldn't control the double hung versus the single hung if it's an aluminum.
And can you control the design of the window, the profile of the
We would do our
mountings?
best, but there's limitations. Obviously, being an impact window, you're going to have the side rails be wider just to meet the testing requirements. So,
To me, it sounds like they switched to a vinyl product to, be more in line with what the board intends and hopes for versus an aluminum product. So I think we'd be asking them to, A, pay another application fee for something that would be automatically approved, and to counterbalance that, if we approve it now, I think we could guarantee, that what goes in would match as closely as possible.
Mike and.
Or if we continue and look at the vinyl and aluminum side by side. And maybe that would give them time to look into wooden repair, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, I would be more comfortable continuing it and at least having a chance to compare the two. I'm not prepared to approve a vinyl product that we only have allowed in the past in very particular circumstances on this beautifully maintained house, on the primary facade, on all of the windows. I mean, it's like going down the list of all of the things where we usually wouldn't even approve. I mean, I'm just not comfortable with the situation we're looking at of putting a product that we don't usually approve onto a house that's in this good of shape, in this location, with this prominence to the street, and this many windows.
I mean, I would definitely like to see a comparison of the two. I mean, to give you some background, this is something that we've been battling with for years, and I won't go into all the details. But as far as vinyl and aluminum, I guess vinyl products have evolved from when some of these standards, not the Secretary of Interior standards, but the standard of not allowing vinyl windows, they've evolved since, I guess, the early historic districts in the 90s, and they did used to discolor all the time. Mm-hmm. So that is historically one of the reasons why vinyl has not been allowed. But obviously the products we've heard are improved. We haven't seen the test of time yet,
And
which
a
is
lot
the
of
concern.
A lot of times the exterior applied grid also falls off. So you see, like that's what we've seen in the past, all these concerns that we have about vinyl. I mean, myself and Gabe, I know that we see it a lot just being in architecture. But I mean, I'm not confident enough in the vinyl product to just approve it because right now, today, we think that the profile matches better. Because like Ms. Skyer is saying, we're concerned with the longevity of the product.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm open to a continuance to see both products. I know this is not what you were hoping for. You wanted the chips to fall as they may, but at least we'll have more information to see if the vinyl is truly the better alternative.
And I'd also like more information on what the profile looks like for the applied grid, like what you can get for the custom profiles.
Okay. Do you want to make the motion? And I guess just clarify what you'd like to see.
Okay.
I'm
Did
sorry,
you have
just
something
one,
else to add?
you know, but that still isn't addressing our concerns about, you know, windows in perfectly good condition. Not perfectly, but you know what I mean.
Well, I think that a condition that we could make in our continuance is that the applicant do further research into the repair of the existing windows that need to be repaired, and perhaps just a little around the edges to prevent a puddle.
And demonstrate that to staff, that they did it.
Well, or to us, or, yeah.
I think the applicant said that they had looked into repairing the windows, and that the major draw is the impact product. I still go back to the matrix. Like, yes, it's an original product, but if they could have gotten this staff approved, like, I just don't know that we can make them keep the original if it can be approved by staff in the matrix.
We went down that road and came back to where we were. So.
But that's an if, not an is.
I think
I think
that bottom line is what our responsibility is. You know, and our responsibility is, you know, to maintain the historic elements of the existing, you know, properties of houses. And that includes the wood windows.
Can I ask the attorney's opinion on this? How does the matrix figure into how we are supposed to make our decisions? Are our decisions still supposed to be based solely on the criteria with which we usually make our decisions, or are we also supposed to consider the matrix by which the staff approvals and whatnot operate within the city?
I think I might have to look into that further, and a continuance would be beneficial on that ground as well.
Okay. So let's would like to make the motion to continue?
I move to continue case 19-11 so that we may see the aluminum product comparison to the vinyl product. We'd also like to see the applied grid, the different profiles that you can get with that, and allow the city attorney time to clarify the basis of which we are supposed to be making these decisions based on the approval matrix of the city of West Palm Beach for historic preservation.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to case number 19-14, 3301 South Flagler Drive.
Frederique Mittner presenting another alteration request. This time it is for paint at 3301 South Flagler Drive. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of South Flagler Drive and Greenwood Drive in the Prospect Park/Southland Park Historic District. It is a contributing structure, and the request is to whitewash the existing exterior red brick. So this is the north elevation of the structure, the one that faces Greenwood. And then this is the east elevation that faces South Flagler Drive. So obviously the side of the property is facing Flagler, even though it has a Flagler address, and then Greenwood is really the front entry. The request is to take white paint and whitewash the brick, so the brick would still be exposed to some extent, very similar to what this structure has. This is another contributing structure in the same historic district, and you can see this application on the ground floor here, with the clapboard on the other portions of the structure. This is the material that the applicant has proposed to use. It would be a latex exterior paint. Staff has reviewed the application, and it would not meet standards 2 and 5, specifically alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property. In this case, the brick is a character-defining feature, and distinctive finishes, such as brick, also need to be preserved per standard 5. So we are recommending denial, but the property owner as the applicant, and they're here to present their case to you.
Okay. Questions of staff?
The photo of the other home that you showed us that was whitewashed.
Yes, this is the same effect they would like to achieve, I believe.
Yeah.
And so you do see the brick
Is this home
through
the
it.
same vintage as the other home?
Yes.
Okay. And obviously, this was already done. If let's say, if this had come before us, a similar situation, would this be denied as well?
Well, that, again, the decision is yours. That's just
Yeah.
that's the recommendation.
Right.
Yes. I don't know for sure if this has always been this way or if this was
Okay.
applied later on.
So is this a historic house?
Yes, this is also a contributing home in the same historic district, yes.
And in our packets, there's an email chain that it looks like
Yes.
there's different planners from Florida weighing in sort of on this issue. Was this in relation
No.
to this project, or it just happened to
It
occur
was
around the same
complete
time?
coincidence. Another planner in the state asked a listserv what their policy was on whitewashing brick structures in their communities. And so you see the responses. The majority of them recommended denial, but different boards did end up approving it. And the planner that prompted the question was actually asking about the case that went in front of Landmarks on the island, on Palm Beach Island.
So have we confirmed that the brick is original to the home, the exterior brick?
I mean, I haven't done any forensic evidence on this, but it has always had that exterior finish, so.
And is the whitewashing reversible in any way?
Possibly, I'm going to let the applicant address that if it's a reversible methodology of how they're approaching this.
Well, whitewash and paint are two different things.
Well, then I'm going to defer to the applicant of exactly how they intend on applying the paint that they included and then removing part of the paint to expose the red brick similar to this image. And I will let them address the methodology.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Applicant?
Hi, I'm Chad Wilkinson, an applicant and owner, and my wife Lisa, and we lived in a house for the last 14 years. And we do take that responsibility serious for living in a house seriously. That's started in the 1930s and finished in the 1940s. It is original. There have been additions throughout the years. In the back of the house, there's a stucco and brick addition. So really what we want to do is just a very subtle, so just kind of to be, just for clarity, it's a subtle brushing whitewash. It's not a complete covering of the white brick, to make it completely white. It is reversible. There's a product, an environmentally safe product. I did the research on it. It's called Smart Strip, and it's applied with a pressure washer, and it's pressure washed off. So if it were to be, it can be taken off. So we hope that you guys would approve it. And it's really just a very subtle application, not permanent, can be taken off if needed.
Now, I'm curious because as architects, I mean, your house is beautiful. So I'm curious why you want to do this, because, I loved your house. So.
Thank you. My wife wants it. But
happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, she is. We're in the business. I'm a contractor. She works in real estate in the market, and we just think it's a nice, fresh, light change, very subtle change. So it's like I said, it's not. We do see that, the complete painting of the brick, but this is more just a fresh pop.
And its removal doesn't do damage to the brick?
No, it's actually, the material that I researched is actually designed for that, concrete and brick, to take stuff off.
So is it's like a chemical mixture that's applied and then you pressure wash it, or
If you want,
it's
if
mixed
you
in
want
with
to
the
remove
pressure
it,
washing?
the paint itself is just normal exterior paint.
Right.
So there's nothing special about that. If you wanted it removed, and I have information, I have all the tech sheets on that, the data sheets. It's an applicant that's sprayed on and then pressure washed off.
So if there was like a hurricane and you had, I feel like the microphone's very loud tonight. So if you had like a lot of pressure on this house, I mean, you're right on the lake, is it going to, because it's removable, does that mean that it's going to come off?
No more than any other paint, no more than the paint on the white cypress.
Okay.
So it's not, the paint itself is no different than any other exterior paint, but the product, if you wanted to remove it, the product is actually environmentally safe. I have the spec sheets for it too. So it's a non-chemical based paint remover. If that's not the point I want to drive home, but the paint is normal like any other, so any other hurricane conditions, it would be the same result as if, the wood was being blasted by a hurricane.
Have the data sheets that say that the paint is reversible been submitted to staff?
No, the paint, the paint itself is not, there's nothing different about the paint. The paint you would use to paint your house is the same, but there is a way to remove any paint that is safe, and I have that here. I have enough copies for everybody, but I did not have that information when I put in the application.
And is this product for removal, is that specific to it being applied to brick, or is it just like generally if it's applied to a surface, it'll come
Any
off?
surface.
Since it is, the way it's stated here, that it's just a flat latex paint, how exactly do you apply it to get that whitewashed effect?
There's two methods. There's a sponging method with a water-based, sponge.
Right.
That's blotched, and then there's also just a light brush, just like you would a Venetian plaster finish. There's just a technique of application. There's nothing special about the paint. It's just a very subtle, it's a whisper of white paint.
A whisper of white.
It's a white highlight. Like I think it's 190 Monceau is the picture they were using, the other historical home that has it.
Are you going to make any additional changes? I mean, are you going to paint, I mean, you're going to have like this totally white house. Are you going to do the clapboards differently? Are you going to do your shutters a different color?
No, sir. All the same. Very subtle.
Big old white house.
It's not a complete painting of the brick.
Okay, right. No, I understand.
Any further questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Do you have any members of the public that are here to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none. Go into executive session.
Can I ask staff one more
Sure.
question? Ms. Mittner, I know with brick, one of the worst things you can do is sandblast it. How does pressure washing affect?
So there's certain settings that would be required on a historic home so that there is no additional damage done. So definitely no sandblasting, but as far as power washing with a water pressure, there's certain settings that are acceptable.
Has this board ever approved the painting of brick?
Only once on Barcelona, where the applicant came in front of the board and provided photographic evidence that it had been previously painted and then removed to expose the red brick, and they wanted to go back to the white.
And do we have any evidence that this home was ever painted?
Not that I'm aware of, I don't know. No.
Okay. Okay.
Did the board approve, I happen to live right by this house, and on the corner of Washington and Greenwood on the south side, there's a brick house that's white, which
On the-
they
on the
redid,
west side.
which
That
I
was
don't know if y'all
approved
are
on an
familiar with,
appeal.
But that was
Yep,
what?
that was approved on an appeal
On an
at
appeal.
City Commission.
Okay.
That was
Yeah,
a ranch
we
house.
denied it.
Not the paint we denied. We denied
The whole project.
the whole project.
It was a ranch house before? Okay. Any further questions of staff? No? I think it's a very reasonable request, but I mean, just for me, because it was never originally painted, I feel like this is a very character-defining feature of a prominent property on a prominent corner, and I'm just, because of the standards that are stated, standards 2 and 5, I'm not comfortable with it. That's my feeling, though.
I agree. However, it is reversible.
Well, we think it's reversible. I mean, you have to have it, Ms. Mittner saying that not to do damage to the property, it has to be on certain settings. What if it doesn't come off being on those certain settings? What, it has to be on the higher settings to get it off? I mean, I've never seen this, like, removed. I've never seen paint removed successfully from brick.
Without damaging it.
Without damaging it. I mean, I've seen it with sandblasting, which, you know, was a disaster, not my project, for the record.
So I'm not changing my recommendation, but the Barcelona case that I referenced earlier, that was successfully removed, the paint, and it was
You've
red brick.
seen it?
Yes, it was
Okay.
red for years and years, and it had successfully had the paint removed. It was just the new owner wanted
And
white.
there was no trace that it had been painted?
No? So, just adding that to the conversation.
I think regardless, for me, even though it is reversible, is that this is a distinctive feature. Like, it will change the design of the home as it was intended. I think there's supposed to be a very high contrast between the two building materials, between the brick and the cypress. So, I know you will still see some brick. It's not fully white, but that's just my opinion. So, I'm not able to make a motion, so if someone would like to make a motion, we can vote on it. But you can make whatever motion you'd like.
I have a question, staff, again, I guess. Sorry. Have any other elements of this house been altered over time?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
I will say, just being familiar with this house, I don't think the other color details show so brightly in this. So if were it to be whitewashed, I don't think you would lose the contrast between the historical elements and shutters, etc. Were it to be a shade or two lighter. Just a thought.
I think perhaps the elements that are significant in this house is the fact that you've got brick and you've got the is it clapboard?
I think he said cypress.
Cypress. Those are the elements that are that make this house noticeable, and I think that whitewashing the brick as a reversible situation, it'll still be brick. You'll still see that fabric, and I think that's the important factor here, not necessarily the color. But it is reversible.
I just want to point out in the email chain, I don't know if everyone's had the opportunity to read through it, but it's page 3 of the email chain, and just an excerpt from it. It says, I think you will find that most communities advise against painting brick on historic structure if it has never been painted previously, and this is the point that I want to bring to light, as it alters a significant character-defining feature of the structure. So I think a lot of times when we approve something that's reversible, it doesn't alter the character-defining feature. Like, we approve awnings all the time because it's removable, it's reversible, but it doesn't change a character-defining feature. So you're not, like, the character-defining feature is still underneath that, whether it's like the arch of the window or the detailing with a trim, things like that, a front door, the feature is still there. You're not changing the feature itself. I mean, what else do we approve that's reversible or removable besides like awning, something? Is there anything else that we approve that does alter a character defining feature like this? I know it seems like a really small issue, but I do think it'll make a big impact because it's on a prominent corner. And we don't come across this very often. So it's a unique situation for our board too. And I think we just are trying to be careful that we're making the right decision.
And I think unique in West Palm Beach. I mean, how many brick buildings are there? Not that many. Does someone want to try to make a motion?
May I just ask one more question of the applicant? Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay. One more question of the applicant. You said you were a contractor?
Yes, sir.
Have you applied this technique on another building?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Have you seen a place where it was applied?
190 Monso.
Those people that
I'm sure it's the
photo that we
same.
had?
Like, again, I'm sure it's the same similar exterior paint. The paint itself is not special. It's the removing of the paint.
Oh, no, I understand that, right.
But it's the same. That's the same look. Almost, it's identical, same look.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying to get at is whether what your neighbor used was an actual
But I would-
an actual whitewash versus a paint.
Well, I think, my understanding is the whitewash is just a technique, that the paint itself, I mean, there may be a specific whitewash paint I'm not aware of, But
No, there is, if you looked up whitewash, you would find a formula with calcium hydroxide and other
okay,
things.
yeah, that's above my,
Yeah.
that's above my.
No,
level,
it's what, Tom Sawyer used to paint the fence. It's an old-fashioned kind of a thing. Okay, the question was whether you've done it yourself, so that.
No,
you've
but
answered that.
I mean, obviously, as a contractor that have lived here for 14 years, I would absolutely, that's why we're here.
Okay,
I would.
thank you.
It's going one way or the other. Who wants to make a motion?
I mean, I think no one wants to make a motion because most people are still split on the decision,
Right.
including myself.
Well, if we're split, that means.
Well, I don't think we should continue it because we have all the facts before us.
Okay, I'll give one version of the motion. I move that the Historic Preservation Board deny application number 1914 for alterations. The motion is based on the testimony presented, along with the staff report that competent substantial evidence of record has not been submitted that satisfies standards set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 2 and 5, which state for standard 2, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Standard 5 states distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed,
Okay, if you could state your reasons for the record.
because it is reversible and it does not change the texture of the brick. That is why I'm
Okay.
opposed.
Same reasons, and I don't think it's an alteration to the point where it would ultimately change the character of the house.
Okay. Motion carries, so was denied. Thank you for your research on whether it could be removed or not. Sorry, we weren't able to grant your request.
And your home's very beautiful.
We love your home. Moving on to case number 19-10, 738 Cayuga Drive.
Aaron Borngerber, Historic Preservation Planner. Here we have Historic Preservation Case Number 1910 for new construction of a single-family residence at 738 Cayuga Drive. Highlighted in red is the project location, and the request is by designer Richard Davis on behalf of owners Walter and Tammy Uminger for new construction of a single-story neo-Mediterranean revival single-family house with a detached one-car garage within the Flamingo Park Historic District. This is the existing site. It's currently a vacant lot with some overgrown vegetation. This is an example of neighboring properties. On the left is the property immediately to the east, and on the right is the property immediately to the west of the site. These two on the left and right both show examples of the 800 block of Cayuga. They're in no particular order. This is another example of the 800 block of Cayuga. And there is a tower element proposed for this structure, and there are several tower elements within the Flamingo Park Historic District. On the left, an example from the 700 block of Cayuga, and on the right is an example from the 600 block of Park Place. This is another example on the 600 block of Biscayne Drive. And the applicant cited this new construction that the board approved recently on the 800 block of Sunset as one of their inspirations for their designs. And a little historic information about the property. On the left, the Florida Department of Transportation 1975 aerial shows the house. It was a single-story structure and within the yellow box. And on the right is the property record card from 1962. It was demoed in 1984. This is the proposed site plan, floor plan, and roof plan. The site plan does comply with all the zoning requirements. And this is the proposed front elevation, which is the north elevation facing Canoga Drive. It features a center tower element with a door with side lights and fan light. This is set in. The applicant is considering 2 French doors instead. There's also a stone crown, stone medallions and brackets towards the top. There is 2 windows on either side with stone medallion and sill, as well as the fan lights and a stone casing around that. The detached garage is in the rear, which will be partially visible. I'll go into that a little bit later. This is the east elevation. The tower element is still visible here. The stone medallions on top. The rest of the elevation just features 3 windows, as well as the roofing profile of the structure. This is the south elevation, or the rear elevation. It features 2 windows, has a covered porch with a shallow arch and sliding doors. The tower element is partially visible from this elevation as well. This is the west elevation, or the right elevation, and this will be the driveway elevation. The tower element, once again, with the stone medallions, and there is a single window with a stone sill, as well as the decorative stone medallions and sill on either side, spaced apart evenly. And there's the covered porch with the shallow arch. This is the accessory structure. So the front elevation of the accessory structure does have a centered garage door. There's brackets above on the fascia. There is an indent which was helped to create the centering of the door. And on the left elevation where that indent is a door into the garage, as well as a blank wall. On the rear elevation of the garage features a blank wall, and on the right elevation of the garage, it features the stone medallions and stone sill. The finish for both the main structure and this structure is a stucco finish. This is the rendered view. So the door with the side lights is inset within the tower element. And this is the street elevation, which shows the 2 structures to the left and right of the structure, as well as how it would fit in within the Flamingo Park Historic District. So staff has reviewed the criteria for new construction, and this does not comply with the Historic Preservation Ordinance or the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9. So while this structure is clearly different and you can tell it's new construction within the Historic District, it is not compatible with the historic materials, features, size, or scale or proportions, or the massing. The tower element, while not unique, while common within the Flamingo Park Historic District, is much larger in profile and tends to be on asymmetrical buildings. This is a very symmetrical structure, which the Mediterranean Revival style kind of shied away from. There's also a lack of windows on the side elevations, which were very common historically to let natural light in. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of the application for a certificate of appropriateness.
Questions of staff?
Had the applicant come to you with their original drawing, or was it the first time you saw it was when it was sent to your office?
I spoke with the applicant, who is here, as well as the designer twice, doing a couple of reviews for suggested changes.
Okay.
Did they incorporate any of those changes?
They did a few. So the stone medallions on the driveway elevation where the right is, they incorporated that. They also centered the garage door. That was kind of a concern that I had as staff.
But I assume you had some other concerns as expressed in your report?
Yes.
Were not accommodated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you. Applicant?
My name is Walter Arminger. I'm not the best at public speaking, but my wife's been very influential, and I think she's good at that.
My name is Tammy.
We very excited to be here. We very excited to build a beautiful home in the neighborhood. We met some neighbors that told us that, this place been vacant and I saw for a long time. They're happy that we're going to make investment and build a beautiful home. This is our first time doing this, so we don't really know the whole process. We don't understand a lot of things. I've been communicating with the staff, so many questions,
And they've actually had some very good ideas.
Yeah,
some very helpful
yeah.
ideas,
So with your help, I'm sure we will end up with a beautiful home. We are artists and we love beauty, and we want to create a beautiful home. And we love Mediterranean home. We moved from New Jersey, and we see such beautiful architect in Florida that we don't have in New Jersey.
And
And
that-
when I go back to New Jersey, I said, I can't wait to come back to Florida. It is so much more beautiful here.
And
So-
that's kind of how I came up with the idea, because the Meisner thing with the tower, and
Oh, if it's not right, we're listening. We want to make it right.
Yeah, we're
So-
open and we're listening.
And really, we're packing already. We're just so excited to move. We want to build a home.
yeah.
So,
Okay. And so this is your architect here?
yeah, my architect, and can answer all the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Richard Davis,
Hi.
and I've got a little bit written about the early conversations. When I met with Mr. and Mrs. Elminger, it became clear they were interested in a Spanish revival. Kind of the whole Spanish is under the Mediterranean umbrella of terminology, but I'm not necessarily looking for a mission style with parapets and flat roofs, but more of a Spanish colonial or Spanish eclectic style with terracotta tile, hip roofs, arches, tower, stone trim, similar to many of the examples here in South Florida. And Addison Meisner, Joseph Urban, George Merrick, Marion Wythe, just a few names of architects and developers that have influenced the homes in our area. Some of those features have been borrowed to create this little modest single-story home for Mr. and Mrs. Elminger. The narrow lot, along with our building codes, has some limiting features. The design complies with all of these regulations: lot coverage, floor area ratio, egress windows, still staying well below the maximum height. We are utilizing modern building materials such as roof trusses to help achieve an open floor plan layout without all the interior supporting walls the original homes of that era had. That's very common. Centering the entry helps make a smaller home feel larger on the inside when you enter, and the view expands in both directions. However, a bedroom on each side of the entry creates symmetry with a building that's less than 35 feet wide. The entry would create additional square footage if it was shifted to the side, and visually smaller layout on the inside. The owner has a collection of very interesting furnishings and wall tapestries that have played a role in window size and locations. Their goal of selling their existing two-story home and to retire here in a single-story home in a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood is what we're trying to achieve. We request your approval to allow Mr. and Mrs. Elminger to invest in your community, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
Have they already purchased the land, or is that predicated upon getting approval for construction?
They are the owners.
Okay.
I do have additional photos if there's concerns of a specific topic, towers or roof pitch. We didn't have a full compilation of the photos at the time of the submittal, and I missed the opportunity to do the PowerPoint, but I do have printed copies if that would help.
I think the crux of the issue here is that, while you've created, a perfectly lovely Meisner-type, Mediterranean-style home, it kind of just doesn't belong there.
There is a lot of the Mission style on that street, but in the whole of the Flamingo Park Historic District, there's many other. The typical Mission style has the flatter, square, boxier look, and that's not what the goal was. If we expanded the entire historic district, I think we'd find better examples.
Yeah, so to me, the massing of this, like city staff mentioned, is that the massing of it reads very contemporary and is not in line with the historic structures in the neighborhood. Not just that neighborhood, but all of the historic neighborhoods of West Palm Beach. This very much looks like new construction. Not just the massing of it to me, but even the detailing of it. I completely agree with the window comment too for the sides. On one side, there's only a single window, and I'm not sure exactly how long that elevation is, but it's substantial to only have one small window. Yeah. Thank you. And the height of the tower, also as city staff mentioned, is of concern. What is the slope of the roof pitch?
It's a very good point, because these photographs are skewed vertically considerably. That looks like a 7 or 8/12 pitch, but we're proposing only a 5/12. I have a blueprint that's printed to scale, if that would help. You
But
can see the difference.
these are elevations, right, that you drew, so they should be representative of.
They should be, but they're definitely skewed vertically, they're stretched.
How can it be skewed if they're elevations?
So to clarify, there's been some changes in chambers, so that these two images are indeed skewed. Mr. Davis is right, but what you're seeing on your screen and what you're seeing here and what the audience at home sees is the normal elevation. So if you want to take a look, you'll see that this one is not.
Okay, I didn't understand.
These definitely look steeper
see,
than,
that's not-
that's true, that's a true 5/12.
And you can see it by the West Palm Beach logo, how the WPB is vertically oriented, and I think on your screens it should be normal. Again,
Yes.
and at home it's normal.
Yeah, it looks normal on our screens.
So you were given feedback by staff, and some of that you decided not to incorporate, or?
I presented comments from Aaron to the homeowners, and they talked it over, and we've made some of the revisions, and they have reasons for keeping some of the others.
Okay.
I have photographs of examples. If roof pitch is the topic or the bone of contention, I can show examples of other
Examples
homes.
of homes within the district?
That's right, Spanish style homes with steeper pitch.
I don't know if it's really the pitch of the roof, it's the tower element and its location and the number of window openings.
Yeah, I mean, to me, most of the elements need to be further refined.
Yeah, and I think some of the surrounding houses are far simpler in their thought than this one.
And ornamentation.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the pictures of those in the packet, none of them are symmetrical, like none of the surrounding homes.
If you would allow me, I have photos printed that didn't make it in time that are examples of symmetrical homes. I have also examples of homes with towers. Would I be allowed to pass out the printed photographs?
Do you also have the addresses written on
I do.
those? Okay.
Well, I have, unfortunately, it's in my computer. I have one copy with the addresses printed that I could read as you look at the
Okay.
photos, but the bundle did not have that.
Okay.
If I have bundles of different categories, symmetrical or tower or roof pitch. So if we would start with homes that are symmetrical, I could pass these around. And then we'll talk about tower.
And these
elements.
homes are all in the district?
That's right.
Just per our packet, 706 Canuga and 816 Anuga, at least to me, appear symmetrical.
I'm sorry, am I clicking this fix? Okay, yeah.
It is a different architectural style, but yes, I see what you're saying about 706. And
So
then
what was the other one, 706 and what?
816. Wait,
Is
the
that
one
new
on the top or the
construction?
bottom?
816 is on the left-hand side, it's a little bit cut off. Right before 736.
That looks,
Asymmetrical.
yes. No, it looks like the tower is offset.
So we have one photo of a symmetrical building that's of a different architectural style.
That's a mission style.
Right, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, Mission can typically be symmetrical,
Yeah.
whereas the Mediterranean contributing structures in our districts tend to be asymmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the addresses on my package. And this is an angled view of a symmetrical home, so because of the angle, you see the front projection that looks non-symmetrical, but it is on a straight-on view. I think there was trees or a vehicle in the way. This is 615 Canuga.
Are all of the houses in this packet on Canuga, or no?
No, they're not. The next photo is 730 Park Place. This is a new construction. That has very similar features, too.
Yeah, I mean, most of these look like they're Mission style, so
There
it's
is-
again the same point.
It's a totally different type of architecture. So yes, they are symmetrical homes, but it doesn't have a predominant tower, decorated like you did in this project. So that's the issue.
You can see the difference. The Mission style is again, we're not trying to duplicate the Mission style. However, they are very symmetrical, and they are, there's a few examples.
I think a symmetrical home can be appropriate if it's a different style.
Correct.
And I think that's what the members of the board are saying.
Correct.
It did sound like the applicants were open to making further changes to be in compliance with our standards. I don't think there's any reason to deny a project when we can continue to improve it so that it does fit in with the neighborhood.
So would the owners be open to a continuance today to further refine the design with staff?
We would like to hear what you like, so this way we can, come up with a solution tonight, and we can get it
Because
approved as
obviously
soon
you
as
guys
possible.
have been doing this a while, you're
Yeah,
knowledgeable, so
We not.
give us some
we-
feedback.
Besides we like the two-bedroom to be in the front, and we like it, the grand entrance. But as far as the other changes, you can tell us, we will change it. You can change the higher the tower, we can,
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're so open to working with us, but I think that
Yeah.
there's enough changes that need to be made that we would want you to come back next month with some revised plans, so we could see them, rather than making an approval with a list of conditions.
Right.
Everybody agrees?
Yes, I believe what you're asking for is for other people to give their opinion as to the specifics of what they feel like is in keeping with the neighborhood and with I don't know if it's the style or not. I know that I've given, and Ms. Skyer's given some more specific direction. I don't know if other people would like to chime in so that it's more helpful in terms of direction, even if it's agreeing or disagreeing with what's been said.
It would be very helpful.
Yeah,
To
we
hear
need-
your-
I think the overriding consideration is the fact that the surrounding area and the district it represents a more simple style. When you say, and you said it yourself, we like the grand entrance, but that's really not in keeping with any of the houses in the district. It's a very simple neighborhood. And, it's a beautiful house, but it doesn't really fit in with the district in its grandness, if you will. So that's my input for the moment.
What about if I give, my wife is an artist and she's very good at drawing. She drew up a couple things. What if I present that to you now and throw those ideas out there and get some feedback? If that's a way for Richard to go that way.
If we could kind of define more, the entry is the bone of contention, the height of the entry, or there's been comments about the roof pitch or the lack of windows. If I can get guidance, we would love to accommodate and
The window, we can
complete the
add
process
windows.
next month.
We can
If
add
we
some
have to, we can
windows
add
on
windows.
Some areas we can't add
It's just we
windows
have
because we have large
big
artwork.
tapestry
So-
that 8 by 9, 3 of them.
That's the issue with
But
that.
we will add the windows. We want to build a house. We'll add the windows. We can add on the other side that has the one window. I can add 2 windows in the front bedroom.
I'm sure that you've discussed all this also with staff. In fact, staff has said that you've had discussions about the design and that you've taken some of the suggestions, but not all. And I don't know what some of the others were, but perhaps you might want to go back to staff and have another discussion about his suggestions and
I think we just need more
We just need,
input from you guys
yeah,
and from
tell us,
staff.
please,
Well-
what do you want to see?
I'd just like to confirm that staff has provided clear direction. We understand the applicant has specific parameters in terms of furnishings. However, we've stressed the symmetry, the tower element, the roof pitch, and the side elevations, and they were not addressed at multiple reviews. So it's wonderful that they're open to your suggestions, but we just want to let you know that we definitely have made an attempt, and they wanted to bring it to
Well,
you.
the reason that we didn't, because I was told that to present it to the board and see what the board say, and that's,
Yeah, that's
you
why we
know,
did it
that's,
like that.
isn't that what the purpose is?
Ultimately, the
And yeah,
decision
it's
was
not
the
that
board.
we didn't listen, we just, we would love the feedback, and, you want us to lower the tower, we can lower the tower, we can, like I mentioned, we desperately want to build a home here.
You
Our
know what
dream
I
home,
don't want
we-
to happen?
yeah.
I don't want Richard to go through,
Uh-huh.
4 or 5 drawings and be here,
Yeah.
multiple times and waste everybody's time.
Yeah.
Waste Richard's
Uh-huh.
time.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to get it,
Yeah, so
I know
just-
I know I have to come back, but I'd
Just-
like some kind of maybe feedback. Oh, you wanna
Window is not a problem, we just add windows.
Well, I think we're very much in agreement with the staff's findings in their report. And this is very typical that when we ask for a continuance, we ask that the applicant work with staff to refine the design to bring it back for us. Because they are there for almost an entire month before you resubmit. So there's lots of time to get into minute details that we don't necessarily have time for in a meeting. And they can also provide you with examples of things that might be more fitting with the historic district that we may not be able to get into in the meeting. So we trust staff to provide you the guidance that you're needed. And then if staff comes to us and tells us how you've worked together on it and this is what you've come up with and they make a recommendation for approval, then that's what we will most likely go with. So I don't think you have to be concerned that if you work with staff over the next month or so that we're gonna come back and have major issues with it. Does that allay some of your concerns?
But I will be
You know, I can,
easier for us if you just,
I can only speak for myself, but I know that I would be very hard pressed to approve a big Meisner-style house in that location. So I think that's kind of like the bottom line here. And I think you might need to go through the neighborhood and look at some of the other homes that are in the neighborhood and find another type of design that you find beautiful, that you can make your own, that would satisfy the board as well.
I would like to see a rendering that incorporates staff's recommendations, even the ones that weren't originally included, that they recommended for you guys.
should I show them what I bought?
Well, we have taken photographs. If the tower element is an issue, that we'll still have an entry roof line, and we want to avoid a misunderstanding of what you consider an acceptable tower height. I have photos that I think are examples of towers that are
I think
more
that it's
obvious
not
than
the
the tower.
tower height. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's more of the entire treatment of a house is to look more authentic to what is existing in the neighborhood, and has to work with, it has, to look like belong to that neighborhood. And this design doesn't belong to the neighborhood because it's a beautiful design that probably belongs more to where I live in Boca, in a Meisner kind of setting, but not to a historic district with different, styles.
We felt that removing some of this ornamental stone trim would create more of the typical Boca-style architecture. The ornamental stone was really the...
Also, for example, brackets. I mean, if you look at the historic houses in the area, contributing houses, they treat the brackets in a different way. They are authentic, right? And there's many details that staff can go with you through all those details to make it look more authentic,
I'm confident that if you're willing to work with staff in redesigning it and bringing it back with us, that we'll be pleased and very likely approve it, if you're willing to work with staff. So I think that's what we're requesting, is that you go back and work with staff.
The point that the balancing, as Richard, explained, we would like the 2-bedroom to be in the front. So I don't know how we're going to change that, and that's why we show the example of the other house that was just completed last year, that basically I take from that the 2-bedroom in the front, and because we want the other 2-bedroom to be in the front. I'm willing to lower the tower. But, and he mentioned that it's very difficult because it's a 33-foot, in the front, and so to have it not balancing where the 2 bedrooms, and we don't really want to redo the whole house. If we can just keep the front and change the height of the tower, and should I show him this?
I'm very confident our staff can find design solutions to accommodate the floor plan that you want. I don't think it's a matter of the floor plan, it's the exterior elements. And so they've dealt with this for many, many, many years, and they can think of lots of examples, I'm sure, to assist in your design. So do we have any further questions of the applicant? No. Okay, thank you.
So it would not help to see the owner's thoughts or sketch?
We're asking if you could meet with staff
We certainly will.
to go through those, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any members of the public that are here? Oh, you're just here observing. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Did you want to speak or just here? I did swear in. Okay.
Ramona Barbagallo, 739 Flamingo, and a 1925 Spanish. I'm excited that somebody is going to build there because for years I've had to traipse over to that property just to hack back the overgrown vegetation. So it'll be nice to have a neighbor. Unfortunately, I think they're going to remove my favorite sable palm tree.
No.
That is where the garage is going to be. And of course, you guys have no say in that. So, you know, I agree with you that the house has too much ornamentation and then it lacks windows. But, you know, I'm looking forward to having them as neighbors. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And do we need, if you could fill out a card before you leave, if you haven't already done so. Oh, okay, great. If you could give that to the board secretary. I don't think we have any more members of the public, so I think staff has clear direction on what we would like to see in terms of what can be done during this continuance.
Would not mind if you wanted to clarify a few details.
Okay, you would like some clarification? Yes. Okay, so what would you like to see?
Okay, so collectively, I think there's sort of an issue with massing and proportion to be in scale with the rest of the street. If it's going to stay Mediterranean, we would prefer for there to at least be some sort of appearance of asymmetry. But if it needs to stay symmetrical, then I think it needs to become a different style. Windows on the sides, as you mentioned. What else am I forgetting?
Well, ornamentation, less ornamentation.
Less ornamentation or just more thoughtful detailing of the ornamentation, again, to be in scale with what we see historically.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So would someone like to make the motion?
I move that we continue case 19-10 to the April 2019 meeting to give the applicant time to rework the design in accordance with what we have discussed and what staff will recommend. I guess that's...
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you back.
Yes, yes.
And we have the annual meeting, which will take like 2 seconds. So everybody's like, oh.
So typically, this is when we do, every March is our annual meeting. We elect the chair and vice chair. I believe current slate is still willing to serve, but the nomination has to come from the board.
I nominate Amanda Skyer as chairperson.
Second.
Oh.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. All in favor? All in favor.
Nomination for vice chair?
I recommend Ms. Asperger.
Second.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I am happy to continue to serve. And
Same here.
changes to rules and procedures?
And that was only if you wanted to delve into those. We announce it at one meeting, then we'll have them for review and discussion at the next one. I don't think we've run into any conflicts over the past year. Our rules and procedures include attendance, include the length of time presentations can be made, appeal options, and I don't think there's been any hiccups in the past year. But if the board wanted to explore those, we can bring those forth next time.
I have a small thing, and I'm not sure if this is the correct forum for it. When applicants present before us, I would love to see the existing and proposed of the same elevation on the same page. So it's existing east elevation, proposed east elevation. When they break it up, like all of the new elevations on one sheet and all of the existing on another sheet, it's harder to compare the two.
Also, all the plans should have the north in it. Some of them have, and some of them don't have. So we like to see the
Front,
north
rear,
arrow,
side.
arrow in all the plans.
We can make that request.
And then floor plans, I mean, I feel like sometimes they're missing the original floor plan.
Yeah, I mean, we need to An
Okay.
If we
existing
could see
floor
the,
plan.
yeah, the existing.
Existing versus proposed, okay.
And is there any chance, separate of, what is there any chance of revisiting our vinyl aluminum discussion?
Yes, we can have a workshop on it. I think in general, we've been talking about having a workshop again anyway, so we can add that to the agenda.
And our new board member hasn't had the pleasure of going through one of those.
And at our next meeting, we're going to get the recommendation from council about how the matrix plays into our decisions.
Yes, I will definitely look into that.
Okay. Because the whole matrix vinyl thing was scary, when we made that decision, I didn't understand some of the implications of what it would look like on the back end, and what will come before us. So I think it's important to take what council says in accordance while we revisit our rules.
I wonder if the matrix, it's just a thought, I haven't researched it in any way, but if the matrix might incorporate that they can replace it if there's deterioration of the existing, rather than just allowing replacement.
That could be, it would be a modification to how it currently is, but yes.
Make our meetings longer. That's what happened when we changed the design approval matrix. It was worth it.
Great, okay. I'll put those on the to-do list. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Great. Thank you.